Victoria Whitmore grabbed the tray of cold food and threw it against the wall. The plate shattered. Milk splashed across the floor. The 2-year-old in the corner didn't even flinch. He had stopped flinching weeks ago. "Stop looking at me like that," Victoria hissed, stepping closer to the child. "Your father is dead. His money is mine now. And you're just a problem I need to solve." She grabbed Lucas by the arm and dragged him to the thin mattress on the floor. The boy didn't cry. He didn't scream. He had learned that crying only made the pain worse. "Stay here and be quiet," Victoria said. "If I hear one sound from this room, you won't eat for 3 days. Do you understand me?" Lucas nodded, his blue eyes empty and hollow. Victoria slammed the attic door shut, turned the lock, and walked away without looking back. Downstairs, she checked her reflection in the mirror, adjusted her pearl necklace, and smiled. Tonight she was hosting a charity gala for underprivileged children. The irony never bothered her. The boy in the attic hadn't eaten in 2 days. He was learning to survive on silence and shadows. He was learning that no one was coming to save him. But he was wrong. If you want to know how this innocent child was saved from his stepmother's evil plan, subscribe to my channel and follow this story until the very end. Comment below which city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel around the world. Now let me tell you how one ordinary woman found the courage to do something extraordinary. Maria Santos pressed her back against the hallway wall and held her breath. Footsteps, coming closer. The sharp click of high heels on marble floors. She shouldn't be here. She knew she shouldn't be here. The 3rd floor was forbidden. Mrs. Whitmore had made that perfectly clear on Maria's first day. But Maria had heard something, a sound that made her blood run cold. A child's whimper, weak and broken, coming from behind the locked door at the end of the hall. The footsteps stopped. "Maria?" Victoria Whitmore's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Maria stepped away from the wall, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Yes, Mrs. Whitmore." Victoria stood at the top of the stairs, her green eyes narrowing. She wore a black silk dress and diamond earrings that caught the light. Her dark hair was pulled back in a perfect bun. She looked like a magazine cover. She looked like money. "What are you doing up here?" Maria's mind raced. "I was looking for cleaning supplies, ma'am. I thought there might be some in the storage closet." "The storage closet is on the 2nd floor." "Yes, ma'am. I got confused. This house is so large." Victoria walked toward her slowly, each step deliberate, each step dangerous. She stopped inches from Maria's face, close enough that Maria could smell her perfume. Roses and something else, something bitter underneath. "Let me be very clear," Victoria said softly. "This floor is off limits. That door stays locked. Always. Do you understand me?" "Yes, ma'am." The last housekeeper didn't understand. Victoria's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She thought she could go wherever she wanted. She thought the rules didn't apply to her. Maria's throat tightened. "What happened to her?" "She doesn't work here anymore." Victoria paused. "She doesn't work anywhere anymore." The threat hung in the air between them. Maria kept her face blank, her hands steady at her sides. She had learned long ago how to hide her fear. Growing up poor in Guatemala had taught her that. Surviving as an undocumented immigrant in America had reinforced it. "I understand, Mrs. Whitmore," Maria said. "It won't happen again." "See that it doesn't." Victoria turned and walked back down the stairs. Maria waited until the footsteps faded completely. Then she looked at the locked door one more time. Behind it, she heard the sound, again, faint, desperate. The cry of a child who had given up hope. Maria made a decision in that moment, a decision that would change everything. She was going to find out what was behind that door, no matter what it cost her. That night, Maria sat in her small apartment and stared at the water-stained ceiling. She couldn't stop thinking about that sound, that weak, broken whimper that seemed to echo in her bones. She had raised 3 children of her own back in Guatemala. She knew what a hungry child sounded like. She knew what fear sounded like, and she knew what neglect sounded like. Her phone buzzed. A video call from her daughter Sophia in Guatemala City. "Mama, finally, I've been trying to reach you all day." Maria forced a smile. "I'm sorry, mija. Work was busy." Sophia's face filled the screen, bright and beautiful at 16 years old. Behind her, Maria could see the small house she had bought with years of savings. The house where her children lived without her. "Are you okay, Mama? You look tired." "I'm fine, just thinking." "About what?" Maria hesitated. How could she explain? How could she tell her daughter that somewhere in America, in a mansion bigger than their entire neighborhood, a little boy was locked in an attic, a little boy whose cries no one heard, a little boy who was slowly disappearing? "Nothing important," Maria said. "Tell me about school." They talked for 20 minutes. Sophia was doing well in her classes. Miguel had joined a soccer team. They missed her. They loved her. They were proud of her. After the call ended, Maria lay in the darkness and cried. She thought about her own children safe and loved, waiting for her to come home someday. She thought about the boy in the attic alone and forgotten with no one to protect him. She thought about what she would want someone to do if her children were the ones locked away. By morning, Maria had made up her mind. She was going to save that child, even if it destroyed her. Maria arrived at the Whitmore estate an hour early the next day. The sun was barely up. The mansion stood silent and dark against the gray sky. Victoria's car was still in the garage. The house was asleep. Maria let herself in through the service entrance and stood in the kitchen listening. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway. She had a plan. Not a good plan, but a plan. First, she needed to learn Victoria's schedule. When did she leave the house? When did she return? When was she distracted enough that Maria could move freely? Second, she needed to find the key. Victoria kept it on a chain around her neck, but there had to be a spare somewhere. Rich people always had spare keys. Third, she needed evidence. Photos, documents, proof that something terrible was happening in this house. Proof that someone would believe. Maria started cleaning the kitchen, moving slowly, listening for any sound from upstairs. At 8:30, she heard movement. Footsteps on the second floor. A door opening and closing. Water running. Victoria was awake. Maria kept working her ears, straining for every sound. At 9:15, Victoria came downstairs. She wore a cream-colored blouse and tan slacks. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was flawless. "Good morning, Maria." "Good morning, Mrs. Whitmore." Victoria poured herself a cup of coffee and sat at the kitchen island, scrolling through her phone. Maria wiped the counters, stealing glances at her employer. "I have meetings today," Victoria said without looking up. "I'll be gone until 3. The silver needs polishing. The guest bathroom needs attention, and stay off the 3rd floor." "Yes, ma'am." Victoria finished her coffee and left. Maria heard the front door close, the car start the crunch of gravel as she drove away. The house was empty. Maria's heart pounded as she climbed the stairs. 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor. The locked door stood at the end of the hallway. White paint, brass handle, an ordinary door hiding something terrible. Maria knelt down and pressed her ear against the wood. Silence. "Hello," she whispered. "Is someone there?" "Nothing." "I heard you yesterday," Maria said softly. "I know you're in there. I'm not going to hurt you. I want to help." Still nothing. Then so faint she almost missed it, a shuffling sound. Movement. Someone was alive behind that door. "My name is Maria. I work in the house. I'm going to find a way to get you out. Do you understand? I'm going to help you." A small voice, barely audible. "Mama." Maria's heart shattered. "No, baby, I'm not your mama, but I'm going to take care of you. I promise." She heard footsteps approaching the door from inside. Small footsteps, then a sound that made her stomach turn. The boy was scratching at the door, trying to get out, trying to reach her. "I can't open it yet," Maria whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I don't have the key, but I'm going to find it. I'm going to come back for you. Just hold on a little longer. Can you do that?" The scratching stopped. Then so quietly she almost didn't hear it. "Hungry." Maria pressed her hand against the door. "I know, baby. I know. I'm going to bring you food. Tomorrow. I promise." She forced herself to stand up, forced herself to walk away. Every step felt like betrayal, but she couldn't help him if she got caught. She had to be smart. She had to be patient. She had to find that key. Maria spent the next 3 days learning the house. She memorized Victoria's schedule. Meetings on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. Charity board on Tuesday afternoons. Spa appointments on Thursday. Every pattern, every routine, every opportunity. She searched for the spare key everywhere. Desk drawers, kitchen cabinets, the coat closet by the front door. She found nothing, but she found other things. In the trash behind the kitchen, she discovered empty baby bottles crusted with old formula, dirty diapers wrapped in plastic bags and hidden at the bottom of the garbage bin, small jars of baby food barely touched thrown away with the regular waste. Victoria was keeping the boy alive. Barely. Just enough food to survive. Just enough water to breathe. But why? What was she waiting for? On Thursday afternoon, Maria got her answer. Victoria had left for her spa appointment. Maria was supposed to be cleaning the second-floor bathrooms. Instead, she was in Victoria's private study, a room she was only allowed to enter on Wednesdays. Her hands shook as she opened the desk drawers. Papers, files, bills, nothing unusual. Then she found it, a folder buried at the bottom of the largest drawer. Inside was a letter from a law firm, Wellington Price and Associates, attorneys at law. Maria's English wasn't perfect, but she understood enough. The letter was about a trust fund, Lucas Whitmore, the sole beneficiary. $40 million held in trust until his 18th birthday, but it was the last paragraph that made Maria's blood run cold. In the event of the death of the minor beneficiary prior to his 18th birthday, all assets shall transfer immediately to the surviving spouse and legal guardian, Victoria Ann Whitmore. Maria read it 3 times to make sure she understood. Victoria wasn't just neglecting Lucas. She was waiting for him to die, waiting for him to waste away in that attic room, starving and forgotten, so she could claim his inheritance. $40 million. That was what Lucas's life was worth to her. Maria's vision blurred. Her hands trembled so badly she almost dropped the letter. She grabbed her phone and took photos of every page. Then she carefully replaced the folder exactly where she had found it. She had evidence now. Proof of Victoria's plan. But she still didn't have the key. The next morning, Maria arrived at the estate with a small bag hidden under her coat. Inside were things she had bought at the grocery store the night before. Crackers, banana, juice box, baby food pouches. Not much, but enough to keep a child alive for one more day. Victoria was in the dining room, eating breakfast. Maria served her coffee and tried to keep her hands from shaking. "You seem nervous today," Victoria said, not looking up from her phone. Maria's heart stopped. "I didn't sleep well, ma'am. Bad dreams." Victoria took a sip of coffee. Dreams can be dangerous things. They make people do foolish things. Was that a warning? Did Victoria suspect something? Maria kept her face blank. "Yes, ma'am?" Victoria finished her breakfast and stood up. "I'm meeting with my lawyer this morning. I'll be back by noon. Don't forget to polish the silver." "Yes, ma'am." The moment Victoria's car disappeared down the driveway, Maria ran. 3rd floor, locked door. She knelt down and slid one of the crackers under the gap between the door and the floor. "Lucas, it's Maria. I brought you food." Silence. Then shuffling. A small hand appeared under the door and grabbed the cracker. Maria fed him through the crack. Cracker after cracker, broken into small pieces. She couldn't see him. She couldn't hold him. But she could keep him alive. "I'm going to get you out of here," she whispered. "I just need to find the key. Can you wait a little longer?" A small voice, barely audible. "Scared." "I know, baby, I know, but you're not alone anymore. I'm here. I'm going to take care of you." She heard a sound from downstairs, the front door opening. Victoria was back early. Maria's blood turned to ice. She grabbed her cleaning supplies and flew down the stairs, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. She was wiping the 2nd floor banister when Victoria appeared at the top of the stairs. "Maria?" "Yes, ma'am." Victoria's eyes swept over her, missing nothing. "Why are you out of breath?" "I was hurrying to finish the bathrooms, ma'am. I want to do a good job." Victoria stared at her for a long moment. Maria felt sweat trickling down her back. "The meeting was canceled," Victoria said finally. "I'll be in my study. Bring me tea in 20 minutes. "Yes, ma'am." Victoria walked past her without another word. Maria leaned against the wall, her legs trembling. That was close. Too close. She had to find another way. The opportunity came 5 days later. Victoria was hosting a luncheon for her charity friends. A dozen wealthy women in designer dresses drinking champagne and discussing their philanthropic efforts. The irony made Maria sick. She was serving appetizers when she noticed something. Victoria had left her purse on a chair in the corner of the room, and Maria could see something glinting inside. Keys. Her heart started racing. Victoria sometimes kept a spare key on her main key ring. Maria had seen it once months ago when the chain around Victoria's neck had broken. This was her chance. She watched Victoria, carefully waiting for the right moment. At 12:45, Victoria excused herself to use the restroom. Maria counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3. Victoria disappeared down the hallway. Maria set down her tray and walked casually toward the corner of the room. The other women were chatting and laughing, paying no attention to the help. They never paid attention to the help. Maria reached into the purse. Her fingers found the keyring. She pulled it out slowly, carefully, her eyes darting toward the hallway. 5 keys on the ring. One of them was small and brass. Her hands trembled while she worked the brass key off the ring. It came free with a soft click. "What are you doing?" Maria spun around. A woman was standing behind her, one of Victoria's friends. Tall, blonde, suspicious. "I was just moving the purse," Maria said quickly. "It was about to fall." The woman's eyes narrowed. "It looked like you were going through it." "No, ma'am, I would never." The woman stared at her for a long moment, then she shrugged. "Be more careful. Victoria doesn't like people touching her things." She walked away. Maria slipped the brass key into her apron pocket and returned the key ring to the purse. Her heart was beating so fast she thought she might faint, but she had done it. She had the key? That night, Maria sat in her car outside the Whitmore estate and waited. The house was dark. Victoria's bedroom window showed no light. The grandfather clock in the hallway had chimed midnight an hour ago. Maria got out of the car and walked through the shadows to the service entrance. The door was unlocked. She had left it that way on purpose. The house was silent as a tomb. Maria climbed the stairs in the darkness, feeling her way along the walls. Her heart pounded with every step. 3rd floor, locked door, brass key. She slid the key into the lock. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold it steady. "Please, God, please let this work." She turned the key. The lock clicked open. Maria pushed the door. The smell hit her first. Urine, feces, rotting food, stale air that hadn't been changed in weeks. Maria gagged, covering her mouth with her hand. The room was tiny, no bigger than a closet. A single window covered with a dark curtain blocked all light. The floor was bare wood, cold and dirty. There was no furniture except a thin mattress in the corner, and on that mattress, curled into a ball so small it barely looked human, was a child. Lucas. Maria fell to her knees beside him. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh, sweet baby, what has she done to you?" He was skeleton thin. His blonde hair was matted with dirt and something dark that might have been dried blood. His skin was pale, almost gray. He wore pajamas that were 3 sizes too big, stained with food and waste. His arms were covered in bruises, some fresh, some fading to yellow, but it was his eyes that broke Maria completely. They were open, staring at nothing, empty, dead, the eyes of a child who had stopped hoping, a child who had stopped believing that help would ever come. "Lucas?" Maria touched his shoulder gently. "Lucas, can you hear me?" He flinched violently, scrambling away from her, pressing himself against the wall. His tiny body shook with terror. "No, no, no, Maria said quickly, holding up her hands. "I'm not going to hurt you. Maria, remember, I've been bringing you food. I'm here to help." Lucas stared at her. His breathing was fast and shallow. His hands clutched the thin blanket like a shield. Maria reached into her bag and pulled out a banana. "Look, I brought you something to eat. Are you hungry?" Lucas's eyes fixed on the banana. For the first time, Maria saw something other than fear in his face. Hunger. Desperate, painful hunger. She peeled the banana slowly and held out a piece. "Here, take it. It's yours." Lucas didn't move. He stared at the food like it was a trap, like he expected her to take it away, like he had learned that kindness always came with a price. "It's okay," Maria whispered. "I promise." Slowly, so slowly, Lucas's hand reached out. He grabbed the piece of banana and shoved it into his mouth. He chewed frantically, barely swallowing before reaching for more. Maria fed him the entire banana, then crackers, then a pouch of baby food, then another. He ate everything, his tiny hands trembling, his eyes never leaving her face. When the food was gone, Lucas looked up at Maria, and for the first time, a single tear rolled down his dirty cheek. "More?" he whispered. Maria started crying. She couldn't help it. The tears came flooding out, and she couldn't stop them. "I'll bring more tomorrow," she said, her voice breaking. "I'll bring you food every single day, I promise." Lucas crawled toward her slowly, cautiously, like a wounded animal approaching a stranger. He stopped inches from her knee and looked up at her face. Then very gently he reached out and touched her hand. Maria pulled him into her arms and held him close. His tiny body was so light, so fragile. She could feel his ribs through his pajamas. She could feel his heart beating against her chest, fast and frightened. "You're safe now," she whispered, rocking him back and forth. "I've got you. You're not alone anymore." Lucas's body stiffened at first. Then slowly he melted into her arms. He pressed his face against her shoulder. And for the first time in who knows how long, someone held him. They stayed like that for a long time. Maria lost track of the minutes. All she knew was that this child needed her, and she wasn't going to let him down. Finally, she pulled back and looked at his face. His eyes were different now, still scared, still wary, but there was something else there too. Hope. "I have to go now," Maria said softly, "but I'm coming back tomorrow, and the day after, and every day until I can get you out of here. Do you understand?" Lucas's lower lip trembled. "Don't go." Those 2 words almost destroyed her. "I have to, baby, just for a little while, but I'll be back, I promise. I've never broken a promise in my life." She kissed his forehead and stood up. At the door, she turned back. Lucas was watching her, clutching the thin blanket, his blue eyes shining in the darkness. "Tomorrow," Maria said. She stepped out into the hallway and closed the door behind her. Her hands shook as she locked it. Tears streamed down her face. She had found him. He was alive, but barely. And she was running out of time. The days that followed became a dangerous routine. Every morning, Maria arrived early with food and supplies hidden in her coat. Every morning, she climbed to the 3rd floor while Victoria was distracted or away. Every morning, she spent precious minutes with Lucas, feeding him, cleaning him, talking to him, reminding him that he wasn't alone. And every morning, she came closer to getting caught. On the 4th day, Victoria came home an hour early. Maria was on the 2nd floor, but she heard the car in the driveway and her heart nearly stopped. She had just been with Lucas. If Victoria had arrived 10 minutes sooner... On the 6th day, one of Victoria's friends stopped by unexpectedly. Maria had to hide in the coat closet for 20 minutes while they chatted in the hallway, her bag of baby food clutched to her chest. On the 8th day, Victoria asked her a question that made her blood run cold. "Maria, have you noticed anything strange in the house lately?" They were in the kitchen. Victoria was drinking her morning coffee. Maria was washing dishes, her back to her employer. "Strange, ma'am. Things out of place. Doors that should be locked. That sort of thing." Maria's hands tightened on the dish she was holding. "No, ma'am. Nothing strange." Victoria was silent for a moment. Maria could feel those green eyes boring into her back. "The security system logged an entry through the service door at midnight last Tuesday," Victoria said casually. "I thought it might be a glitch, but now I'm not so sure." Maria's heart stopped beating. The dish slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. "I'm so sorry, ma'am." She dropped to her knees, picking up the pieces with trembling hands. "I don't know what happened. I'm usually so careful." Victoria stood up and walked toward her. Maria kept her eyes down, focused on the broken dish. "Look at me, Maria." Maria forced herself to look up. Victoria's face was unreadable. "You've been different lately," Victoria said softly. "Nervous, distracted. I wonder why that is." "I haven't been sleeping well, ma'am. Family troubles back home." Victoria studied her for a long moment. "Family can be such a burden, can't they? Always needing something, always wanting more than you can give." She turned and walked out of the kitchen. Maria stayed on her knees, surrounded by broken pieces, her whole body shaking. Victoria suspected something. Maybe she didn't know exactly what, but she knew something was wrong. Maria had to move faster. She had to find help, before Victoria figured out the truth. But who could she trust? Who would believe her? That night, Maria sat in her apartment and searched for answers. She had been gathering evidence for 2 weeks now. Photos of Lucas's bruises, photos of the filthy room, photos of the legal documents about the trust fund. She had dates and times written in a notebook. She had proof. But proof wasn't enough. She needed someone with power, someone who could fight Victoria and win. She thought about going to the police, but what would she say? That she had broken into a locked room? That she had been sneaking around her employer's house? They would ask for her identification. They would discover she was undocumented. They would arrest her, and Lucas would be left behind, alone, with the woman who wanted him dead. She thought about calling Child Protective Services, but Victoria was wealthy and connected. She had lawyers and friends in high places. She would claim Maria was lying. She would claim the housekeeper was trying to extort her. Who would believe an undocumented immigrant over a Newport socialite? Maria was trapped. She could see the cage closing around her, and she didn't know how to escape. Then she remembered something. 8 months ago, before she started working at the estate, she had helped cater Jonathan Whitmore's funeral. She had been serving food when she noticed a woman standing apart from the crowd. The woman had been watching Victoria with narrowed eyes. She had asked the lawyers questions about Lucas, about the will, about who would take care of the child. Her voice had been sharp with suspicion. Maria had overheard her name. Catherine Whitmore. Jonathan's younger sister. Lucas's aunt. Maria grabbed her phone and started searching. Catherine Whitmore. Providence. Rhode Island. There she was. Partner at a family law firm. specialist in custody cases and child welfare, a lawyer who spent her career fighting for children. Maria stared at the phone number on the screen. Her finger hovered over the call button. This was it. This was her only hope. But what if Catherine didn't believe her? What if she called the police? What if this made everything worse? Maria thought about Lucas, his hollow eyes, his skeletal body, the way he clung to her like she was the only solid thing in his world. She thought about what would happen if she didn't make this call, if Victoria's plan succeeded, if Lucas wasted away in that attic until there was nothing left. Maria pressed call. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Catherine Whitmore speaking. Maria's throat tightened. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Hello, is anyone there? Miss Whitmore? Maria's voice came out as a whisper. My name is Maria Santos. I work at your brother's house. I need to talk to you about Lucas. Silence. A long, heavy silence. What about Lucas? Catherine's voice changed, sharp, alert, scared. He's in trouble, Maria said. Serious trouble. Your nephew is locked in the attic. He's starving. He's covered in bruises. Victoria keeps him there alone in the dark like an animal. Oh my God. I've been feeding him in secret for 2 weeks, but I can't keep him safe much longer. Victoria is getting suspicious, and I found documents, legal papers about his trust fund. What kind of documents? Maria took a deep breath. If Lucas dies before he turns 18, Victoria gets everything, $40 million. She's not just neglecting him, Miss Whitmore, she's waiting for him to die. The silence stretched between them. Maria could hear Catherine breathing on the other end, fast and shallow. I knew something was wrong, Catherine finally said. Her voice was thick with tears. I tried to visit him twice after the funeral. Both times Victoria said he was sick. She said he couldn't have visitors. I should have pushed harder. I should have. You didn't know, Maria interrupted. No one knew, but now you do, and I need your help. Tell me what you need. I can't go to the police. I don't have papers. If they investigate me, they'll deport me, and Lucas will be left alone with her. I need someone who can fight Victoria and win. I'm a lawyer, Catherine said. I fight for children every day. I can help, but I need to see everything you have. I have photos, documents, everything. Meet me tomorrow, 9 a.m. There's a coffee shop in Providence called The Daily Grind on Hope Street. Bring all of it. I'll be there. And Maria? Yes. Thank you. Catherine's voice broke. Thank you for protecting my nephew. You may have just saved his life. Maria hung up and sat in the darkness, her whole body trembling. She had done it. She had found help. Tomorrow everything would change. But as she lay down to sleep, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, that she had missed something, that Victoria was one step ahead of her. She was right. At that very moment across the city, Victoria Whitmore was sitting in her study staring at her laptop screen. The security footage was grainy, but clear enough. A figure climbing the stairs to the 3rd floor. A figure opening the locked door. A figure spending hours in the room where she kept the boy. Maria Santos. Victoria's hands tightened on the arms of her chair. Her green eyes glittered with cold fury. So, she whispered to the empty room, you think you can take what's mine. She picked up her phone and dialed a number from memory. It's me, she said when the line connected. I need you to do something. The housekeeper, Maria Santos. I want to know everything about her, where she lives, where she came from, and most importantly, Victoria smiled and there was nothing human in it. I want to know how to make her disappear. Maria woke at 5 a.m., her heart already racing. Today was the day. Today she would meet Catherine Whitmore. Today she would show her everything. Today they would make a plan to save Lucas. She checked her phone for the 100th time. The photos were there. The documents were there. 2 weeks of evidence carefully gathered waiting to be seen by someone who could actually help. Maria showered, dressed, and made herself coffee she couldn't drink. Her stomach was twisted in knots. She kept thinking about Lucas alone in that dark room, waiting for her to come back. She had told him yesterday that something big was happening, that help was coming, that he just needed to hold on a little longer. Soon, baby, she had whispered through the door. Very soon. At 7:30 a.m., Maria got in her car and drove toward Providence. The coffee shop was 30 minutes away. She would arrive early, find a quiet corner, and wait. She would show Catherine everything. She would make her understand. And then finally, Lucas would be free. Maria didn't notice the black sedan that pulled out behind her as she left her apartment complex. She didn't notice it following her through the streets of Newport, keeping 3 car lengths back, never too close, never too far. She didn't notice anything at all. At the Whitmore estate, Victoria was already awake. She stood in her study phone pressed to her ear, watching the security monitor that showed the empty 3rd-floor hallway. Her face was calm. Her voice was ice. She just left her apartment, the voice on the phone said, heading north toward Providence. Follow her. Don't let her see you. I want to know exactly where she goes and who she meets. And then, Victoria smiled, then we'll have a conversation, Maria and I, a final conversation. She hung up and walked to the window. The sun was rising over Newport, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. It was going to be a beautiful day. Victoria intended to make sure it was Maria Santos's last. Maria arrived at the Daily Grind at 8:45 a.m. The coffee shop was small and warm, filled with the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of quiet conversations. Maria chose a table in the back corner away from the windows and sat down facing the door. Her hands were shaking. She ordered tea she didn't want and checked her phone again. The photos were still there. Everything was ready. At exactly 9:00 a.m., the door opened. Catherine Whitmore walked in like a woman on a mission. She was in her mid-30s, with dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail and sharp eyes that scanned the room like a lawyer looking for evidence. She wore a gray business suit and carried a leather briefcase. When she spotted Maria, she walked straight over without hesitation. Maria Santos, Maria stood up quickly, nearly knocking over her tea. Yes, thank you for coming, Miss Whitmore. Call me Catherine. She sat down across from Maria, her face serious. Show me what you have. Maria pulled out her phone with trembling fingers. She opened the photo album and placed the phone on the table between them. I took these over the past 2 weeks, Maria said. Every time I visited him, every bruise, every sign of what she's doing to him. Catherine picked up the phone and started scrolling. Her face changed with each photo. The professional mask cracked. Her jaw tightened, her eyes filled with tears that she blinked back quickly. This is the room, Maria said, pointing. It's on the 3rd floor, no bigger than a closet. She keeps him locked in there all day and night. There's nothing but a mattress on the floor. No toys, no books, no light. Catherine's hand was shaking now. How long has this been going on? I don't know exactly. Months, I think. Maybe since his father died, but I only found out 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks, Catherine's voice cracked. He's been suffering for 3 weeks and I didn't know. You couldn't have known. No one knew. Victoria is very careful. Catherine scrolled to the next photo and stopped breathing. It was Lucas's face. Hollow cheeks, empty eyes, the face of a child who had given up on the world. Oh, Ethan, Catherine whispered. Oh, my sweet nephew. What has she done to you? Maria reached across the table and touched Catherine's hand. There's more. I found documents in Victoria's study. She showed Catherine the photos of the legal letters. The trust fund, the $40 million, the clause about what happened if Lucas died before his 18th birthday. Catherine read every word. When she looked up, her face had transformed. The tears were gone. In their place was something harder, something dangerous. She's planning to kill him, Catherine said quietly. She's going to starve him to death and claim it was natural causes. Yes. And inherit everything. Yes. Catherine closed her eyes and pressed her fingers to her temples. When she opened them again, there was steel in her gaze. This ends today, she said. I'm going to get my nephew out of that house, and I'm going to make sure Victoria pays for every single thing she's done. How? Maria asked. She's rich. She has lawyers. Everyone believes her. I'm a lawyer too, and I have something she doesn't. Catherine leaned forward. I have the truth. I have your evidence, and I have connections at Child Protective Services who owe me favors. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling them right now. Then I'm calling the police. We're going to that house today, and we're going to take Lucas away from her. Maria's heart leaped. Today, right now. Right now. Catherine was already dialing. Victoria thinks she's untouchable. She's about to find out how wrong she is. Outside the coffee shop, a man in a black sedan watched through the window. He saw Maria showing her phone to another woman. He saw them talking urgently, leaning close. He saw the other woman making phone calls, her face hard with determination. He picked up his own phone and dialed. She's meeting with someone, he said. A woman in a business suit. Looks like a lawyer. Victoria's voice came through the line, sharp and cold. Can you hear what they're saying? No, but they're looking at photos on a phone. The maid is showing her something. Silence. Then, follow them when they leave. Both of them. I want to know where they go. And if they go to the police? Then we moved to Plan B. The man hung up and kept watching. Inside the coffee shop, Maria Santos had no idea that her time was running out. Catherine made 3 phone calls in rapid succession. The first was to a contact at Child Protective Services. I need an emergency intervention. Child abuse case. Life-threatening neglect. Yes, I have evidence. Photos, documents, eyewitness testimony. The child is in immediate danger. The second was to the Newport Police Department. I need to report child endangerment. Possible attempted murder. The suspect is Victoria Whitmore. Yes, that Victoria Whitmore. No, this is not a joke. I have evidence and I'm bringing it to you within the hour. The third was to her law firm. Cancel all my appointments today. I have a family emergency. No, I don't know when I'll be back. Just clear my schedule. She hung up and looked at Maria. CPS is sending a team to the Whitmore estate. The police are meeting us there. We need to go, now. Maria stood up so fast she knocked her chair over. What about Victoria if she sees us coming? She won't have time to do anything. By the time she realizes what's happening, we'll already be inside. They rushed out of the coffee shop and got into Catherine's car. Maria's heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. This was it. After 3 weeks of fear and secrets, Lucas was finally going to be free. How far is the estate from here? Catherine asked, pulling out of the parking lot. 30 minutes, maybe less if we hurry. Then we hurry. Catherine pressed the accelerator. The car shot forward. Behind them, unseen, a black sedan pulled out and followed. At 9:47 a.m., Victoria's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and answered immediately. Talk to me. They're heading to Newport, both of them, driving fast. Victoria's grip tightened on the phone. How fast? Like they're in a hurry, like they're coming for something. Victoria walked to the window and looked out at the driveway. Empty, quiet, but not for long. How far away are they? 20 minutes, maybe less. 20 minutes. That was all the time she had. 20 minutes to erase every trace of what she had done. 20 minutes to make the evidence disappear. Victoria hung up and moved fast. She grabbed the key from around her neck and ran up the stairs. First floor, second floor, third floor. She unlocked the attic door and threw it open. Lucas was huddled in the corner, clutching a small stuffed elephant that Victoria had never seen before. His eyes went wide with terror when he saw her. Get up, Victoria commanded. We're leaving. Lucas didn't move. He pressed himself against the wall, shaking his head. Victoria crossed the room in 2 steps and grabbed his arm. I said get up. She yanked him to his feet. Lucas cried out in pain, tears streaming down his face. Please, he whimpered. Please, I'll be good. I'll be quiet. Shut up. Victoria dragged him toward the door. You're coming with me, and if you make one sound, I swear to God. She stopped, listened. Sirens. Distant, but getting closer. Victoria's blood ran cold. They were already here. The police were already coming. She was out of time. She looked at Lucas, at his thin, bruised body, at his terrified eyes, at the evidence of her crimes written all over his skin. She couldn't take him with her. He would only slow her down. And if she was caught with him... Victoria made a decision. She shoved Lucas back into the corner. He fell hard, crying out as he hit the floor. Stay here, she hissed. Don't move. Don't make a sound. She ran out of the room, slamming the door behind her, but this time she didn't lock it. It didn't matter anymore. Nothing mattered except getting out of this house before the police arrived. Victoria ran down the stairs, grabbed her purse, and headed for the garage. She had a car waiting, a bag packed. Money in offshore accounts that no one knew about. She could disappear, start over. Victoria Whitmore could vanish and someone else could take her place. All she had to do was get out before Victoria Whitmore... She froze. 2 police officers were standing in her driveway, blocking the garage door. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. We have a warrant to search the premises. Victoria's mind raced. I don't know what you're talking about. This is private property. You have no right. We have a court order, ma'am, based on evidence of child abuse and endangerment. The officer's voice was hard. Where is Lucas Whitmore? Victoria's face went white. I want my lawyer. You can call your lawyer from the station. Right now, we need to know where the child is. Behind the officers, 2 more cars pulled up. Catherine jumped out before her car had fully stopped Maria right behind her. Catherine? Victoria's voice dripped with venom. I should have known you were behind this. Where is he? Catherine demanded, pushing past the officers. Where is Lucas? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, Catherine was screaming now, tears streaming down her face. Where's my nephew? What have you done with him? A CPS worker stepped forward. We need to search the house immediately. If there's a child in danger... 3rd floor, Maria said, her voice cutting through the chaos. There's a locked room on the 3rd floor. That's where she keeps him. Everyone turned to look at Maria. Victoria's eyes narrowed with pure hatred. She's lying, Victoria said. She's just a disgruntled employee trying to... I have photos. Maria held up her phone. I have evidence. I've been feeding him for 3 weeks because she was starving him to death. The officers didn't wait for more. They pushed past Victoria and ran into the house. Catherine followed. Maria followed. Everyone followed. Victoria stood alone in her driveway, watching her perfect life crumble around her. She could run. The garage was right there. Her car was waiting. But where would she go? They had her name. They had evidence. They would find her eventually. Victoria Whitmore was trapped, and for the first time in her life she had no idea what to do. Maria ran up the stairs, her heart pounding in her ears. She could hear the officers ahead of her, their boots thundering on the hardwood floors. She could hear Catherine calling Lucas's name, her voice cracking with desperation. 3rd floor, down the hallway, the door at the end. It was open. Maria's blood ran cold. The door was never open. Victoria always kept it locked. She pushed past the officers and burst into the room. Lucas! He was there, huddled in the corner, clutching his stuffed elephant, alive. Maria fell to her knees beside him and pulled him into her arms. I'm here, baby. I'm here. You're safe now. It's over. Lucas was shaking so hard his teeth were chattering. Bad lady, he whispered. Bad lady's scared. I know, baby. I know, but she can't hurt you anymore. Catherine appeared in the doorway. When she saw Lucas, a sound escaped her throat that wasn't quite human. Something between a sob and a scream. She dropped to her knees beside Maria and reached for her nephew. Lucas, oh God, Lucas, I'm your Aunt Catherine. I'm here to take you home. Lucas looked at her with wide, frightened eyes. Then he looked at Maria. It's okay, Maria said softly. She's family. She's going to help us. Slowly, carefully, Lucas reached out and touched Catherine's hand. Catherine burst into tears. She wrapped her arms around both of them, Lucas and Maria, and held on like she would never let go. I've got you, she whispered. Both of you. I've got you. The paramedics arrived at 10:23 a.m. They carried Lucas out of the attic on a stretcher wrapped in warm blankets, an IV already in his arm. He wouldn't let go of Maria's hand. Every time she tried to step back, he cried out and reached for her. I'll stay with him, Maria told the paramedics. I'm not leaving him. Are you family? Maria looked at Catherine. Catherine nodded. She's family, Catherine said firmly. She goes with him. Maria climbed into the ambulance and sat beside Lucas, holding his hand. As the doors closed, she looked back at the Whitmore estate. Victoria was being led to a police car in handcuffs. Her perfect hair was disheveled, her designer clothes were wrinkled, her face was twisted with rage. Their eyes met. Victoria's lips moved, forming words that Maria couldn't hear through the ambulance doors, but she could read them clearly. This isn't over. Maria looked away and focused on Lucas. His eyes were closed now, his breathing slow and steady. For the first time in months, he was safe. You did it, Maria whispered to him. You survived. You're free. The ambulance pulled away, sirens wailing, carrying them toward the hospital and a new beginning. Behind them, the Whitmore estate grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared entirely. At 11:15 a.m., Maria sat in a hospital room and watched Lucas sleep. The doctors had examined him thoroughly. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, multiple bruises in various stages of healing. Developmental delays from lack of stimulation. The list went on, a catalog of horrors that made Maria sick to read. But he was alive. He was safe. He was going to recover. Catherine sat in the chair beside Maria, her face pale and exhausted. The police called, Catherine said quietly. They formally arrested Victoria. She's being charged with child abuse, child endangerment, and theft. They're adding attempted murder to the list. Maria nodded, but she couldn't feel relieved. Not yet. What happens now? Now we focus on Lucas, on helping him heal. Catherine paused. The doctors say it's going to take months, maybe years. He's been through so much trauma. I know. Maria looked at the small boy in the hospital bed. But he's strong. Stronger than anyone knows. Catherine was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Maria, I need to ask you something. Yes. The police are going to want to interview you. They're They're going to ask questions about how you found Lucas, how you got into that room, how you gathered the evidence. Catherine's voice was careful. They're going to ask about your background. Maria's stomach tightened. I know. You're undocumented. Yes. Catherine reached over and took Maria's hand. I'm going to protect you. I've already talked to an immigration attorney. There's something called a U visa. It's for people who are victims of crimes or who help law enforcement solve serious crimes. Your testimony is going to put Victoria in prison for decades. That makes you eligible. Maria felt tears burning her eyes. Really? Really? It's not going to be easy and it's not going to be fast, but I'm going to fight for you the same way you fought for Lucas. Catherine squeezed her hand. You saved my nephew's life. The least I can do is help you stay in the country. Maria couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. On the bed, Lucas stirred. His eyes fluttered open. Maria? His voice was small and scared. Maria leaned over and smoothed his hair back from his forehead. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. Lucas looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at Catherine, then back at Maria. Stay, he whispered. Maria smiled through her tears. Yes, baby, I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere. Lucas closed his eyes and fell back asleep. His small hand wrapped around Maria's finger. And for the first time in a very long time, Maria felt something she had almost forgotten how to feel. Hope. At 3:47 p.m., Maria's phone rang. She was still at the hospital sitting beside Lucas's bed. Catherine had gone to deal with the lawyers and the police and the endless paperwork that came with taking custody of a traumatized child. Maria looked at the caller ID, unknown number. She answered, Hello. Silence on the other end, then a voice, cold, familiar, terrifying. Did you think it would be that easy, Maria? Maria's blood turned to ice. Victoria. You took everything from me. My house, my money, my future. Victoria's voice was eerily calm. Do you know what I do to people who take things from me? You're in jail. You can't hurt anyone anymore. Victoria laughed. It was a sound that made Maria's skin crawl. I'm out on bail, $50,000, less than I spend on jewelry in a month. Maria stood up, her heart pounding. The police? The police can't be everywhere, Maria, and they can't protect everyone. Victoria paused. Tell me, how is your daughter doing, Sophia? Isn't it 16 years old? Lives in Guatemala City, goes to San Carlos Academy. Maria stopped breathing. Such a beautiful girl, Victoria continued. It would be such a shame if something happened to her. If you touch my daughter, I won't have to touch her. I have friends, Maria, friends who owe me favors, friends who can make things happen on the other side of the world. Victoria's voice hardened. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to recant your testimony. You're going to tell the police you made everything up. You're going to disappear, and you're never going to speak about me or Lucas again. I won't do it. Then Sophia dies. It's that simple. Maria's legs gave out. She sank into the chair, her whole body shaking. You have 24 hours, Victoria said. Think about it carefully, Maria. Think about what you're willing to sacrifice. The line went dead. Maria sat in the silence, staring at her phone, her mind racing. Victoria was out. Victoria was free. Victoria was coming for her family, and Maria had no idea how to stop her. At 4:15 p.m., Maria made a decision. She called Catherine and told her everything. The phone call, the threats, Sophia. Catherine listened without interrupting. When Maria finished, there was a long silence. She's trying to intimidate you, Catherine said finally. It's what people like her do when they're cornered. She knows where my daughter lives. She knows what school she goes to. And we're going to make sure nothing happens to her. Catherine's voice was firm. I'm calling the police right now. Making threats against a witness is a serious crime. They'll revoke her bail. What if it's not fast enough? What if she already saw? Maria, listen to me. Catherine's voice cut through her panic. Victoria is desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. The more she threatens you, the more evidence we have against her. She's only making things worse for herself. Maria wanted to believe her, but all she could think about was Sophia's face. Her beautiful daughter thousands of miles away with no idea that danger was coming for her. I need to warn her, Maria said. I need to call my family. Do it. Tell them to be careful. But Maria, yes. Don't let Victoria win. Don't let her silence you. That's exactly what she wants. Maria hung up and immediately dialed Sophia's number. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Mama, 2 calls in 1 week. I'm honored. Maria burst into tears at the sound of her daughter's voice. Sophia, thank God. Are you okay? Are you safe? Mama, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Maria couldn't explain everything. Not over the phone. Not like this. But she could warn her. Listen to me carefully, Maria said. I need you to be very careful for the next few days. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't talk to strangers. If anyone asks about me, don't tell them anything. Mama, you're scaring me. What's going on? I'll explain everything later. Just promise me you'll be careful. I promise. But I love you, Sophia. I love you so much. Tell Miguel I love him too. I love you too, Mama. Please tell me what's happening. Maria looked at Lucas sleeping peacefully in his hospital bed. She thought about everything she had risked to save him. Everything she had sacrificed. I did something brave, Maria said quietly. Something dangerous. And now someone is angry at me. Who? A very bad person? But I'm not going to let her win Sophia. No matter what she threatens, I'm not going to let her win. Sophia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You never let anyone win, Mama. That's why we're all so proud of you. Maria smiled through her tears. Be safe, mija. I'll call you soon. She hung up and sat in the silence, her heart still racing. Victoria wanted her to run. Victoria wanted her to hide. Victoria wanted her to disappear and never speak the truth. But Maria Santos hadn't survived 15 years as an undocumented immigrant by running away from her problems. She had survived by facing them head on, and that was exactly what she was going to do. At 6:30 p.m., the police arrived at the hospital. They had come to take Maria's formal statement. 2 detectives, a man and a woman with badges and notebooks and serious faces. Mrs. Santos, the female detective said, we understand you received a threatening phone call from Victoria Whitmore earlier today. Yes. Can you tell us exactly what she said? Maria told them everything. The threats against Sophia, the demand that she recant her testimony, the 24-hour deadline. The detectives exchanged glances. We've already contacted the authorities in Guatemala, the male detective said. Your family is being watched. Nothing is going to happen to them. Maria felt a weight lift from her chest. Thank you. We've also filed a motion to revoke Victoria Whitmore's bail. She violated the terms of her release by contacting you. She'll be back in custody by tonight. And then we build our case. The female detective leaned forward. Mrs. Santos, your testimony is crucial. Without you, we might not be able to prove what happened to that little boy. Victoria's lawyers are going to try everything they can to discredit you. They're going to bring up your immigration status. They're going to call you a liar. They're going to make this very, very difficult. Maria looked at Lucas, still sleeping, still holding the stuffed elephant she had given him. I don't care, she said quietly. I don't care what they say about me. I don't care what they try to do. That woman locked a child in an attic and left him to die, and I'm going to make sure the whole world knows it. The detectives nodded. The female detective almost smiled. That's exactly what we needed to hear, she said. Now let's go over your statement one more time. At 9:15 p.m., Catherine burst into the hospital room. They got her, she said breathlessly. Victoria. The police picked her up an hour ago. She was trying to board a private plane to the Cayman Islands. Maria stood up so fast she almost knocked over her chair. She was trying to run with $10 million in cash and a fake passport. Catherine laughed, but there was no humor in it. She was going to disappear and start over, but they caught her. She's back in jail, and this time she's not getting out. Maria's legs gave out. She sank back into the chair, her whole body trembling. It was over. It was finally over. What happens now? She asked. Now she faces justice. Catherine sat down beside her. The prosecutor is adding flight risk and witness intimidation to the charges. She's looking at 30 years minimum, maybe more. And Lucas? I've filed for emergency custody. Given the circumstances, the judge is going to approve it tomorrow. Catherine reached over and took Maria's hand. He's going to come home with me, Maria, and I want you to come too. Maria blinked. What? I need help. Lucas trusts you more than anyone in the world. The doctors say he's going to need intensive care for months, therapy, special attention, someone who loves him. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. I can't do it alone. I need you. But You're not just anything. Catherine squeezed her hand. You're the woman who saved his life. You're the woman who risked everything to protect a child who wasn't even yours. You're a hero, Maria, and I want you to be part of our family. Maria couldn't speak. The tears were falling too fast. On the bed, Lucas stirred. His eyes opened, looking around the room until they found Maria. "Maria," he whispered. She leaned over and kissed his forehead. "I'm here, baby. Stay." Maria looked at Catherine. Catherine nodded, smiling through her own tears. "Yes," Maria said. "I'm staying. Forever." Lucas smiled. It was small and fragile, but it was real, and in that moment Maria knew that everything she had suffered, everything she had risked, everything she had lost, it had all been worth it, because this little boy was alive, this little boy was safe, this little boy was loved, and that was all that mattered. 3 weeks had passed since Lucas left the hospital. Catherine's apartment in Providence had been transformed. The spare bedroom was now Lucas's room, painted soft blue with stars on the ceiling. There were toys everywhere. Books, stuffed animals, everything a little boy could want. But Lucas still woke up screaming every night. At 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday, Maria heard him crying through the wall. She threw off her blankets and ran to his room before Catherine could even get out of bed. "I'm here, baby," Maria whispered, pulling him into her arms. "I'm here. You're safe." Lucas clung to her, his small body shaking with sobs. "Dark room, bad lady, don't want to go back." "You're never going back. Never. I promise." She held him and rocked him and sang the same Spanish lullaby she had sung to her own children years ago. Slowly his breathing calmed. His grip loosened. His eyes fluttered closed. Maria laid him back on the bed and pulled the blankets up to his chin. She stayed beside him, watching him sleep until the sun came up. Catherine found her there at 6:30 a.m., still sitting in the chair by Lucas's bed. "You didn't sleep at all, did you?" Catherine asked quietly. "I couldn't leave him." Catherine sat down on the edge of the bed and looked at her nephew. "The therapist says the nightmares might last for months, maybe longer." "I know. She says he needs stability, routine, people he can count on." Maria nodded. "He has that now." "He has you." Catherine reached over and touched Maria's hand. "I don't know what we would do without you." Maria didn't answer. She just kept watching Lucas sleep, his small chest rising and falling, his face peaceful for the first time in hours. She would sit here every night if she had to. She would fight off every nightmare. She would be whatever this little boy needed her to be, because that was what mothers did, even when the children weren't their own. At 9:00 a.m., the phone call came. Catherine was in the kitchen making breakfast when her cell phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and her face went pale. "It's the prosecutor," she said to Maria. "Victoria's trial starts in 2 weeks." She answered the phone and listened for several minutes, her expression growing darker with every word. When she hung up, she sat down heavily at the kitchen table. "What is it?" Maria asked. What's wrong?" "Victoria's lawyers have filed a motion. They're trying to have all your testimony thrown out." Maria's stomach dropped. "On what grounds?" "Your immigration status. They're arguing that you're an unreliable witness, that you have motive to lie because you're trying to stay in the country." Catherine's voice was bitter. "They're going to put you on trial, Maria. They're going to try to destroy your credibility." Maria closed her eyes. She had known this was coming. The detectives had warned her, but hearing it out loud still felt like a punch to the gut. "What do? We fight." Catherine stood up, her jaw set with determination. "I've already talked to the immigration attorney. Your U visa application is being expedited. By the time the trial starts, you'll have temporary protected status." "Will that be enough?" "It has to be." Catherine paused. "Maria, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Anything." "Is there anything in your past that Victoria's lawyers could use against you? Anything at all, because if there is, I need to know now so we can prepare." Maria thought about her life. 15 years in America, cleaning houses, sending money home, living in the shadows, always afraid, always careful. "I crossed the border illegally when I was 22, she said quietly. "I worked without papers for 3 years before I got a fake social security number. I used it to get jobs." Catherine nodded slowly. "Anything else?" "No, I've never been arrested, never been in trouble. I just wanted to work and take care of my family." "Then we'll deal with it." Catherine reached across the table and squeezed Maria's hand. "Victoria's lawyers are going to try to make you look like a criminal, but we're going to make sure the jury sees the truth, that you're a hero who risked everything to save a child's life." Maria wanted to believe her, but the fear was still there, coiled in her stomach like a snake. What if it wasn't enough? What if Victoria's money and lawyers were too powerful? What if the jury didn't believe her? What if Victoria won at 2:15 p.m.? Maria took Lucas to his therapy appointment. Dr. Sarah Chen was a child psychologist who specialized in trauma cases. She was kind and patient with a soft voice that made even the most frightened children feel safe. Maria sat in the waiting room while Lucas was inside. She could hear their voices through the door, too muffled to make out words, but she could tell when Lucas was upset. His voice would get higher faster. Then Dr. Chen would speak calm and steady, and Lucas would settle down again. After 45 minutes, the door opened. Lucas ran out and threw himself into Maria's arms. "I told her about the dark room," he said into her shoulder. "I told her about being hungry. I told her about you." "That's so brave, baby. I'm so proud of you." Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway. "Mrs. Santos, can I speak with you for a moment?" Maria looked at Lucas. "Can you sit here and look at the fish tank? I'll be right back." Lucas nodded and climbed onto the waiting room couch, his eyes fixed on the colorful fish swimming in circles. Maria followed Dr. Chen into her office and closed the door. "How is he?" Maria asked immediately. "Is he getting better?" "He's making progress," Dr. Chen said carefully. "But I need to prepare you for something. The prosecutor called me this morning. They want Lucas to testify at Victoria's trial." Maria's heart stopped. "What?" "They think his testimony could be crucial. A child victim speaking in his own words about what happened to him. It would be incredibly powerful. He's 3 years old. He can barely talk about it without having nightmares." "I know. And I told the prosecutor exactly that. But they're insisting. They say without Lucas's testimony, there's a chance Victoria could claim the abuse never happened, that you fabricated the evidence." Maria felt her hands starting to shake. "She locked him in an attic for months. She starved him. She left him in his own filth. How can anyone claim that never happened? Victoria's lawyers are very good at what they do. They're going to argue that Lucas's condition was due to a medical issue, not neglect. They're going to claim Victoria was a devoted stepmother who was unfairly accused by a disgruntled employee. That's insane. I know, but juries can be unpredictable, and Victoria is very convincing." Dr. Chen paused. "I'm going to recommend against having Lucas testify. I don't think he's ready, but ultimately it's Catherine's decision as his guardian." Maria nodded, her mind racing. "I'll talk to her." "There's one more thing." Dr. Chen's voice softened. "Lucas talks about you constantly. You're the center of his world right now. He trusts you more than anyone, even more than Catherine. That's a tremendous responsibility." "I know. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, too. You can't pour from an empty cup." Maria almost laughed. Taking care of herself. She hadn't thought about herself in weeks. Every moment was about Lucas, his meals, his therapy, his nightmares, his slow, painful healing. "I'll try," she said, but they both knew it was a lie. At 6:45 p.m., Catherine came home with news. "The judge denied Victoria's motion," she announced barely through the door. "Your testimony stands. They can challenge your credibility, but they can't exclude your evidence." Maria felt relief wash over her. Thank God. "There's more." Catherine set down her briefcase and sat next to Maria on the couch. "The prosecutor found something. During their investigation, they discovered that Jonathan Whitmore's death might not have been an accident." Maria went cold. "What do you mean?" "Jonathan died in a car accident 8 months ago. Single vehicle drove off a cliff on a mountain road. The police ruled it accidental at the time." Catherine's voice was tight. "But now they're reopening the investigation. They found evidence that his brakes had been tampered with." Maria's hand flew to her mouth. "Victoria killed him." "They don't have proof, not yet, but they're looking." Catherine's eyes were hard. If they can prove she murdered Jonathan, she's not just going to prison for child abuse. She's going away for life. Maria thought about Victoria, her cold eyes, her cruel smile, the way she had talked about Lucas like he was nothing but an obstacle to her fortune. Of course she had killed Jonathan. Of course she had. A woman who could starve a child to death wouldn't hesitate to murder his father. "Does Lucas know," Maria asked, "about his father?" "He knows his daddy went to heaven. That's all he understands at his age." Catherine's voice cracked. "Jonathan was a good man. He loved Lucas more than anything. He would have protected him with his life. He trusted Victoria." "Everyone trusted Victoria. She's that good at pretending to be human." Catherine wiped her eyes. "But not anymore. The whole world is going to see what she really is." At 10:30 p.m., Maria's phone rang. She was in her room trying to sleep when she saw the unknown number on her screen. Her blood ran cold. The last time she had received a call from an unknown number, it had been Victoria threatening her daughter. She answered anyway. "Hello?" "Mrs. Santos." A man's voice, professional and urgent. This is Detective Morrison from the Newport Police Department. I apologize for calling so late. Maria sat up, her heart pounding. What's wrong? What happened? Victoria Whitmore escaped custody 2 hours ago. The words didn't make sense. Maria heard them, but her brain refused to process them. What? She was being transferred between facilities when the transport vehicle was attacked. 2 guards were injured. Victoria is gone. Maria couldn't breathe. How is that possible? We believe she had help, probably people she hired before her arrest. The detective's voice was grim. Mrs. Santos, I need you to listen carefully. We have reason to believe Victoria may try to come after you or Lucas. We're sending officers to your location right now. Lucas. Maria was already running. She burst out of her room and flew down the hallway to Lucas's door. She threw it open. He was there, sleeping peacefully, clutching his stuffed elephant. Safe. Maria's legs gave out. She sank to the floor beside his bed, her whole body shaking. Mrs. Santos. The detective's voice came through the phone, still pressed to her ear. Mrs. Santos, are you there? I'm here. Lucas is here. He's okay. Stay where you are. Don't open the door for anyone except the police. They'll identify themselves when they arrive. Maria hung up and stared at Lucas. Her sweet boy, her brave little survivor. Victoria was out there somewhere. Free. Dangerous. Coming for them. And this time, Maria didn't know if she could protect him. Catherine appeared in the doorway, her face white with fear. I heard you running. What's happening? Victoria escaped. Catherine grabbed the doorframe like she might fall. Oh my God. The police are coming. They're going to protect us. Protect us? Catherine's voice rose. She has millions of dollars and connections everywhere. How are the police supposed to protect us from someone like that? Maria didn't have an answer. She just looked at Lucas, still sleeping, still innocent, still unaware that the monster from his nightmares was coming back. We have to hide, Maria said suddenly. We have to take Lucas and go somewhere she can't find us. Where she knows everything about us, our addresses, our families, our routines. We can't just disappear. Then we fight. Maria stood up, her fear transforming into something harder, something fiercer. We've beaten her before. We can beat her again. Catherine stared at her. How? I don't know yet, but I'm not running. I'm not hiding, and I'm not letting her anywhere near this child. Maria's voice was steel. She wants a war. She's got one. At 11:15 p.m., 4 police officers arrived at Catherine's apartment. They set up a perimeter, checked the locks, examined every window and door. One of them stayed inside the apartment while the others patrolled outside. Maria couldn't sleep. She sat in Lucas's room watching him breathe, listening for any sound that didn't belong. At 2:00 a.m., her phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. Maria's hand trembled as she opened it. Did you think a few police officers could stop me? I'm coming for what's mine, and when I'm finished, no one will ever find the pieces. Maria stared at the message, her blood turning to ice. Victoria wasn't just free. She was watching them. She knew exactly where they were. Maria showed the message to the officer in the apartment. He immediately called for backup. We need to move you to a safe house, he said. Tonight, right now. What about Lucas? Maria asked. If we wake him up and drag him out in the middle of the night, it'll traumatize him even more. Mrs. Santos, with all due respect, a little trauma is better than being dead. He was right. Maria knew he was right. But looking at Lucas finally sleeping peacefully after weeks of nightmares, she couldn't bear to wake him. Catherine made the decision. We go, now. Pack only what we need. In 15 minutes, they were in an unmarked police van driving through the dark streets of Providence. Lucas was wrapped in a blanket in Maria's arms, still half asleep, confused, but too tired to cry. Where are we going? Catherine asked the driver. Safe house in Massachusetts, remote location. No one knows about it except the department. And you're sure we'll be safe there? The driver didn't answer. That was answer enough. At 4:30 a.m., they arrived at the safe house. It was a small cabin in the woods, miles from the nearest town. No neighbors, no traffic, just trees and silence and the distant sound of a river. Lucas woke up as they carried him inside. He looked around with wide, frightened eyes. Where are we? I don't like it here. It's just for a little while, Maria said, trying to keep her voice calm. Like a camping adventure. I don't want adventure. I want to go home. I know, baby. Soon. I promise. But Maria didn't know if that was true. She didn't know if they would ever feel safe again. The police officers secured the cabin and set up surveillance equipment. 2 of them would stay with them around the clock. The others would patrol the surrounding woods. You should try to get some sleep, one of the officers said to Maria. You look exhausted. I can't sleep, not while she's out there. We're going to catch her. It's only a matter of time. Time is exactly what we don't have. At 8:00 a.m., the news broke. Catherine turned on the TV in the cabin's small living room, and Victoria's face filled the screen. Manhunt continues for escaped prisoner Victoria Whitmore, the newscaster said. The former Newport socialite accused of severe child abuse and the possible murder of her husband, Jonathan Whitmore, escaped custody 2 days ago and remains at large. Police are warning the public not to approach her as she is considered armed and dangerous. Lucas walked into the room, just as Victoria's picture appeared on screen. He stopped. His whole body went rigid. His face turned white. "Bad lady," he whispered. "Bad lady on TV." Maria grabbed the remote and turned off the television. She pulled Lucas into her arms. "It's okay. She can't hurt you. She's far away." But Lucas was shaking, his eyes squeezed shut, his small hands covering his ears. "Don't want to see her. Don't want her to come back. Please, Maria. Please don't let her take me." Maria held him tighter, her own tears falling. I won't ever let her take you. I'll protect you with my life." "Promise?" "I promise. Cross my heart." She meant it, every word. If Victoria came through that door, Maria would fight her with her bare hands. She would die before she let that woman touch Lucas again. At 11:45 a.m., everything changed. Catherine was on the phone with the prosecutor discussing what the escape meant for the trial. Maria was playing with Lucas on the floor, trying to distract him with building blocks. One of the police officers stepped inside, his face tense. "We just got word," he said. "Victoria Whitmore was spotted 30 miles from here. She's heading in this direction." Maria's blood ran cold. "How does she know where we are?" "We don't know, but we're calling in reinforcements. You need to be prepared to move again." Lucas looked up from his blocks. He could tell something was wrong. His lower lip started trembling. "What's happening?" he asked. "Why is everyone scared?" Maria forced herself to smile. "Nothing's happening, baby. The grown-ups are just playing a game." "A game?" "Yes, like hide and seek. We're very good at hiding." Lucas didn't look convinced, but he went back to his blocks. Maria caught Catherine's eye across the room. The same thought passed between them. This couldn't go on. They couldn't spend the rest of their lives running and hiding. Something had to change. At 2:30 p.m., Maria made a decision. She found Catherine in the kitchen, staring out the window at the trees. "I'm going to end this," Maria said quietly. Catherine turned around. "What do you mean? Victoria isn't going to stop. She has money connections, people who will help her. She'll keep hunting us forever." Maria's voice was steady. "Unless someone stops her first." "What are you suggesting?" "I'm going to draw her out. Use myself as bait. Let her come for me, and then the police can catch her." Catherine's face went white. "That's insane. She'll kill you." "Maybe, or maybe I'll finally end this nightmare." Maria paused. "Lucas can't live like this forever, Catherine. Running, hiding, always afraid. He deserves better. He deserves to be free." "And what about you? You deserve to be free, too." Maria smiled sadly. "I've never been free. Not since I crossed that border 15 years ago. But I can give Lucas something I never had. A life without fear. There has to be another way. If there is, I don't see it." Maria reached out and took Catherine's hands. "Take care of him. No matter what happens, promise me." Catherine was crying now. "Maria, please, don't do this." "I have to. It's the only way." She turned and walked toward the door. Catherine ran after her and grabbed her arm. "At least wait for the police. Let them help you." Maria shook her head. "The police can't do what I'm going to do, but they can be ready when Victoria shows up." "How will you know where to find her?" Maria pulled out her phone and looked at the text message from the night before. "I'm not going to find her," she said. "I'm going to let her find me." At 3:15 p.m., Maria sent a text message. She used the unknown number that Victoria had texted from. She kept the message simple. "I know what you did to Jonathan. I have proof. Meet me at the old mill off Route 7 at 6 p.m. Come alone or I go to the police." She didn't have proof. She didn't have anything. But Victoria didn't know that. The reply came within minutes. "I'll be there. And Maria. When this is over, I'm going to enjoy watching you beg for your life." Maria stared at the message. Her hands were steady. Her heart was calm. She wasn't afraid anymore. She had spent her whole life being afraid. Afraid of poverty, afraid of deportation, afraid of failure. But watching Lucas suffer had burned all that fear away. In its place was something stronger, something fiercer. Love, the most powerful weapon in the world. At 5:45 p.m., Maria arrived at the old mill. The police were hidden in the woods watching through binoculars and thermal cameras. They had wanted to wire her, but Maria had refused. Victoria would check for devices. She would know. Maria walked into the abandoned building alone. Her footsteps echoed on the concrete floor. The late afternoon sun slanted through broken windows, creating patches of light and shadow. "Victoria," she called out. "I'm here." Silence, then footsteps, coming from the shadows. Victoria Whitmore emerged from behind a pillar. She looked different from the polished socialite Maria remembered. Her hair was tangled, her clothes were wrinkled, her eyes were wild. But she was still dangerous. Maria could see it in the way she moved, the way she smiled. "Maria Santos." Victoria said, her voice dripping with contempt. "The noble maid who ruined my life. I've been looking forward to this." "I know you killed Jonathan." Victoria laughed. "Is that what this is about? You think you can threaten me with information I already know? I think you're desperate. I think you're scared. I think you know your life is over." Victoria's smile faded. "My life is far from over. Do you have any idea how much money I have? How many countries will shelter me? I could disappear tomorrow and live like a queen for the rest of my days." "Then why are you here?" Victoria stepped closer, her eyes burning with hatred. "Because you took something from me. Not just the money, not just the house. You took my victory. I had it all planned so perfectly. Jonathan dead, the brat wasting away upstairs, and then tragically he would die of some mysterious illness, and I would inherit everything. But I found him." "Yes, you found him." Victoria's voice turned cold. "Do you have any idea how long I planned this? How many years I spent pretending to love Jonathan, pretending to care about that worthless child, all for nothing, because some illegal immigrant with a cleaning rag decided to play hero?" Maria felt her anger rising. "Lucas is not worthless. He's a beautiful, brave, innocent child who deserves to be loved. He's a meal ticket. That's all he ever was." Victoria pulled something from behind her back. A gun, small and silver, gleaming in the dim light. "And now, thanks to you, I have to start all over again. But first, I'm going to tie up some loose ends." Maria didn't flinch. She had expected this. She had prepared for this. "The police are outside," she said calmly. "They know I'm here. They know you're here. If you shoot me, you won't make it 10 feet before they take you down." Victoria hesitated. Her eyes darted toward the windows. "You're bluffing." "Try me." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The gun stayed pointed at Maria's chest. The silence stretched between them, like a wire about to snap. Then Victoria smiled. It was the most terrifying thing Maria had ever seen. "You're braver than I thought," Victoria said, "but bravery doesn't stop bullets." She pulled the trigger. The sound exploded through the mill. Maria felt something slam into her chest, throwing her backward. She hit the ground hard, the breath knocked out of her lungs. Pain, burning, searing pain spreading through her body. She heard shouting, running footsteps, more gunshots, and then Victoria's voice screaming with rage. "No, let me go! She deserves to die! They all deserve to die!" Maria tried to move, but her body wouldn't cooperate. She could feel something warm spreading across her chest. Blood, her blood. A face appeared above her. One of the police officers, his expression frantic. "Stay with me, Mrs. Santos. Help is coming. Just stay with me." Maria tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. All she could think about was Lucas. His smile, his laugh, the way he said her name. "Tell Lucas," she whispered. "Tell him I love him." "You're going to tell him yourself. Just hold on." But Maria could feel herself slipping away. The pain was fading. The world was getting darker. The last thing she saw before everything went black was the sky through the broken roof of the mill. It was the most beautiful shade of blue, just like Lucas's eyes. At 7:23 p.m., Catherine's phone rang. She answered it with shaking hands. She had been waiting for hours, pacing the cabin, terrified of what she might hear. "Ms. Whitmore," it was Detective Morrison. "We have Victoria in custody. It's over." Catherine let out a sob of relief. "Thank God, thank God." "There's something else. Maria Santos was shot during the confrontation. She's being airlifted to Providence General Hospital." The world stopped. "Is she alive?" "She's in critical condition. That's all I know." Catherine hung up and looked at Lucas, who was playing with his elephant on the floor, oblivious to everything that was happening. How was she supposed to tell him? How was she supposed to explain that the woman who had saved his life might not survive? She didn't have the words. She didn't have the strength. All she could do was pick up Lucas and hold him close, her tears falling silently into his hair. "Where's Maria?" Lucas asked. "I want Maria." "She's coming, baby," Catherine whispered. "She's coming back to you." But in her heart, she wasn't sure if that was true, and she prayed harder than she had ever prayed in her life that Maria Santos would open her eyes again. The first thing Maria heard was beeping. Steady, rhythmic, mechanical, the sound of a machine keeping her alive. She tried to open her eyes, but they felt like they were filled with sand. Her chest burned with every breath. Her body felt like it belonged to someone else. "Maria?" Catherine's voice, close, desperate. "Maria, can you hear me?" She tried to speak, but nothing came out. Her throat was raw like she had swallowed broken glass. "She's waking up, nurse, she's waking up." Footsteps, voices, hands touching her face, her arms, her chest. Maria forced her eyes open. Bright lights, white ceiling, the blur of faces moving around her. "Mrs. Santos!" A woman in scrubs leaned over her. "Can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me." Maria squeezed. It took every ounce of strength she had. "Good. That's very good. You're in Providence General Hospital. You were shot in the chest. The bullet missed your heart by 2 centimeters. You're very lucky to be alive." "Lucky?" Maria almost laughed. Nothing about this felt lucky. "Lucas," she whispered. The word scraped against her throat like sandpaper. "Where's Lucas?" Catherine appeared at her side, tears streaming down her face. "He's safe. He's at my mother's house. The police are with him." "Victoria." "In custody. Maximum security this time. She's not getting out again." Maria closed her eyes. Relief washed over her so powerful it made her dizzy. "You scared me," Catherine said, her voice breaking. "When they called and said you'd been shot, I thought I was going to lose you. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just don't ever do anything like that again." Catherine grabbed her hand and held on tight. "You hear me? No more playing hero. No more sacrificing yourself. Lucas needs you. I need you." Maria wanted to promise. She wanted to say she would never take another risk as long as she lived, but she knew that wasn't true. She would do it all again in a heartbeat if it meant keeping Lucas safe. "How long?" Maria asked. "How long have I been here?" 3 days. You were in surgery for 7 hours. They had to remove part of your lung." Catherine's voice cracked. "The doctors weren't sure you were going to make it." 3 days. Maria had lost 3 days. "Lucas doesn't know," Catherine continued.
I get it, honey. 35.
"I told him you were sick and the doctors were helping you get better. He's been asking for you every hour. He won't sleep unless someone promises him you're coming back." Maria felt tears burning her eyes. "I want to see him." "The doctors say not yet. You need to rest. You need to heal." "I need to see my boy." Catherine squeezed her hand harder. "Soon, I promise. As soon as you're strong enough." At 2:17 p.m., Detective Morrison arrived. Maria was sitting up in bed now, still connected to a dozen machines, still in pain with every breath but awake. Alert, angry. "Mrs. Santos," the detective said, pulling a chair beside her bed, "I'm glad to see you're recovering. Tell me everything. What happened after I was shot?" "Victoria fired 3 times. The first shot hit you. The second and third missed. Our officers moved in immediately. She tried to run, but we had the building surrounded." The detective paused. "She's being held without bail this time. The DA is adding attempted murder to the charges. Between the child abuse, the escape, and now this, she's looking at life without parole. And Jonathan, her husband. We have enough evidence to charge her with his murder. Brake lines tampered with. Insurance policies taken out 3 months before his death. Financial records showing she was already planning to access Lucas's trust fund." The detective shook his head. "She was playing a long game. Years of planning. All for money." Maria thought about Jonathan Whitmore, a man she had never met, a father who had loved his son, a victim of the same monster who had nearly killed her. "He trusted her," Maria said quietly. "He brought her into his home, into his life, and she destroyed everything. That's what people like Victoria do. They charm, they manipulate, they make you believe there's something they're not." The detective leaned forward. "But she made one mistake. She underestimated you." "I'm nobody, just a maid." "You're the woman who saved a child's life and took down a murderer. That's not nobody, Mrs. Santos. That's a hero." Maria didn't feel like a hero. She felt tired and broken and scared. But she knew one thing for certain. She would do it all again. Every terrifying moment, every sleepless night, every risk she had taken. Because Lucas was worth it. He was worth everything. At 6:30 p.m., Maria's phone rang. Catherine had brought it to the hospital along with some of Maria's clothes and personal items. Maria looked at the caller ID and felt her heart skip. Sophia, her daughter, calling from Guatemala. "Mija," Maria said, answering quickly. "How are you? Is everything okay? Mama." Sophia's voice was thick with tears. "I saw the news. They said you were shot. They said you almost died. Why didn't you call me?" "I couldn't, baby. I was unconscious for 3 days." 3 days, Mama. I've been going crazy. I thought you were dead. I thought I would never see you again." Maria felt tears streaming down her own face. "I'm okay. I'm alive. I'm going to be fine." "The news said you saved a little boy. They said you risked your life for a child who wasn't even yours." "Yes." "Why, Mama? Why would you do that?" Maria closed her eyes and thought about Lucas. His hollow eyes when she first found him. His desperate hunger. His tiny hand reaching for hers in the darkness. "Because he needed someone," Maria said. "Because no one else was going to help him. Because I couldn't look away." Sophia was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Softer. Proud. "That's why you left us, isn't it? Not because you didn't love us, but because you wanted to give us a better life. Because you were willing to sacrifice everything for your children." "Yes." "And this little boy, Lucas, he's like us now. He's one of your children." Maria hadn't thought of it that way before, but hearing Sophia say it, she knew it was true. "Yes," she whispered. "He's mine now." "Then I'm proud of you, Mama. I'm so proud of you." They talked for another 20 minutes. Sophia told her about school, about Miguel, about the house Maria had worked so hard to buy for them. Normal things. Beautiful things. The life Maria had built from nothing but hope and determination. After they hung up, Maria lay in the darkness of her hospital room and smiled. She had left her children to give them a future, and now thousands of miles away she had found another child who needed her just as much. Life had a strange way of working out. At 9:45 p.m., Catherine came back with news. "Victoria's lawyers are trying to plea deal," she said, sitting down heavily in the chair beside Maria's bed. "They want to avoid trial." Maria's eyes widened. "What kind of deal?" 25 years, eligible for parole in 15. Catherine's voice was bitter. "The DA is considering it. They say a trial would be expensive and traumatic, especially if Lucas has to testify. 15 years, she could be out when Lucas is 18. She could come back." "I know, I told them that, but they're worried about the jury. Victoria has a lot of money for defense attorneys. They could drag this out for years." Maria felt anger rising in her chest. "She murdered her husband. She tortured a child. She tried to kill me. And they want to give her a deal, so I'm fighting it. I'm fighting as hard as I can." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "But I'm scared, Maria. What if she gets out? What if she comes back for Lucas?" "She won't." "You can't know that." "Yes, I can." Maria's voice was steel. "Because I'll be there. Every day for the rest of his life, I'll be watching. I'll be protecting him. And if Victoria Whitmore ever comes near my son again, I'll be ready." Catherine stared at her. "Your son?" Maria hadn't meant to say it that way. But now that she had, she realized it was true. Somewhere along the way, Lucas had stopped being the child she rescued. He had become her child, her son, her family. "Yes," she said quietly. "My son." Catherine reached over and took Maria's hand. "Then we'll protect him together, as a family." At 8:00 a.m. the next morning, a miracle walked through the door. Maria was eating breakfast or trying to eat. The hospital food tasted like cardboard, and her appetite was non-existent. She was pushing scrambled eggs around her plate when she heard a sound that made her heart stop. "Maria!" She looked up. Lucas was standing in the doorway, held in Catherine's arms. His face was streaked with tears, but his eyes were shining with joy. "Maria, you're okay. Aunt Kathy said you were sick, but you're okay." "Baby?" Maria breathed. "Oh, baby, come here." Catherine carried him to the bed. Maria held out her arms, ignoring the pain in her chest, ignoring the machines, ignoring everything except the little boy reaching for her. Lucas threw himself against her and buried his face in her neck. Maria wrapped her arms around him and held on, tears streaming down her face. "I missed you," Lucas sobbed. "I missed you so much. Don't leave again. Please don't leave again." "I won't, baby. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Promise." "I promise. Cross my heart." They stayed like that for a long time. Lucas wouldn't let go, and Maria didn't want him to. She breathed in the smell of his shampoo, felt the warmth of his small body against hers, listened to the steady beat of his heart. This was what she had fought for. This was what she had nearly died for. This moment. This child. This love. "Maria." Lucas pulled back and looked at her face. "Why do you have tubes?" "The doctors are helping me get better, like I told you I was sick." "But you're okay now." "I'm getting there. Every day I'm getting a little bit stronger." Lucas touched her cheek with his small hand. "I was scared. I had bad dreams. I thought the bad lady took you away." "The bad lady is gone, baby. She can't hurt us anymore." "You promise?" "I promise." Lucas studied her face for a long moment, his blue eyes serious and searching. Then he nodded. "Okay, I believe you." He snuggled against her chest carefully, mindful of the tubes and wires. "I love you, Maria." Maria kissed the top of his head, her heart so full it hurt. "I love you too, baby, more than anything in the world." At 11:30 a.m., the prosecutor called. Catherine stepped out of the room to take the call. Maria watched her through the window, saw her face change, saw her nod and speak, and finally hang up. When Catherine came back, she was smiling, really smiling for the first time in weeks. "The plea deal is off," she said. "Victoria refused to take it." Maria frowned. "Why would she do that?" "Because she's arrogant, because she thinks she can win at trial, because she still believes she's smarter than everyone else." Catherine sat down beside the bed. "But here's the thing. The DA was actually relieved. They have so much evidence against her now that they're confident they can get a conviction. Life without parole." "When does the trial start?" 3 months. They want to give you time to recover so you can testify." Maria nodded. "I'll be ready." "Are you sure it's going to be brutal? Victoria's lawyers will try to tear you apart." "Let them try." Maria's voice was calm. "I know what I saw. I know what I did. I know what Victoria is. No lawyer in the world can change that." Lucas looked up from where he was playing with a puzzle Catherine had brought. "What's a lawyer?" "Someone who talks a lot," Catherine said with a small smile. "Like Aunt Kathy." Catherine laughed, really laughed, and the sound filled the room with warmth. "Yes, baby, exactly like Aunt Kathy." At 3:15 p.m., Maria received an unexpected visitor. The door opened and a woman walked in. She was in her 50s with gray hair and tired eyes and an expression that seemed carved from stone. "Mrs. Santos, I'm Margaret Chen. I'm the lead prosecutor on the Victoria Whitmore case." Maria sat up straighter, ignoring the pain. "Please sit down." Margaret took the chair beside the bed and studied Maria for a long moment. "I've been prosecuting criminals for 25 years, she said. "I've seen murderers, abusers, people who did terrible things for money or power or just because they could." She paused. "But I've never seen anyone like Victoria Whitmore." "What do you mean?" "She's completely without remorse. I've interviewed her 3 times now, every time she talks about Lucas like he's a piece of furniture, an obstacle that got in the way of her plans." Margaret's voice tightened. "She doesn't think she did anything wrong. She genuinely believes she was entitled to that money and that child was just something to be disposed of." Maria felt cold. "She's a monster." "Yes, she is, and I'm going to make sure she never sees the outside of a prison cell again." Margaret leaned forward. "But I need your help, Mrs. Santos. I need you to testify. I need you to tell the jury exactly what you saw, exactly what you did, exactly what that little boy looked like when you found him." "I'll do it." "It won't be easy. Victoria's lawyers are going to attack your credibility. They're going to bring up your immigration status, your fake social security number, everything they can find to make you look like a liar." "I know. And you're still willing to do it." Maria looked over at Lucas, who had fallen asleep on the small couch in the corner of the room. He looked peaceful, safe, like a normal 3-year-old who had never known pain or fear or hunger. "That woman locked him in an attic and left him to die," Maria said quietly. "She starved him. She beat him. She treated him worse than an animal, and she did it all so she could steal his money." She turned back to Margaret. "Yes, I'll testify. I'll tell everyone what I saw, and I'll make sure they understand exactly what kind of monster Victoria Whitmore really is." Margaret nodded slowly. "Then we're going to win this case. Together." At 7:00 p.m., the news broke. Catherine had turned on the TV in Maria's room while Lucas slept. The evening news was covering Victoria's case, showing old footage of the Whitmore estate photos of Jonathan and Lucas mugshots of Victoria looking defiant and unrepentant. New developments tonight in the Victoria Whitmore case, the anchor said. Sources tell us that prosecutors have uncovered evidence linking Whitmore to a second murder, that of her first husband, Marcus Reynolds, who died under mysterious circumstances 12 years ago. Maria sat up so fast that pain shot through her chest. A second murder. Catherine turned up the volume. Reynolds, a wealthy real estate developer, died in a boating accident in 2012. His death was ruled accidental at the time, but investigators are now re-examining the case in light of the similarities to Jonathan Whitmore's death. Both men were wealthy. Both died in accidents that eliminated the possibility of witnesses, and both left Victoria Whitmore as the primary beneficiary of their estates. Maria felt sick. She's done this before. She married men, killed them, and took their money. For 12 years, Catherine whispered. She's been doing this for 12 years. How many others? How many people has she killed? The news anchor continued. If prosecutors can prove Whitmore murdered Marcus Reynolds, she could face the death penalty under federal law. Maria stared at the screen, her mind reeling. She had known Victoria was evil. She had known she was capable of terrible things. But this serial murder, a pattern of destruction stretching back over a decade. Lucas is lucky to be alive, Maria said finally. If I hadn't found him... Don't think about that, Catherine said firmly. You did find him. He is alive. That's what matters. But Maria couldn't stop thinking about it, about how close it had been, about how easily Lucas could have become just another victim, another name in Victoria's trail of death. She looked at the sleeping boy on the couch. So small, so innocent, so completely unaware of how close he had come to being erased from the world. I'm going to protect you, Maria whispered. For the rest of my life, I'm going to protect you. At 10:30 p.m., Maria couldn't sleep. The pain medication was wearing off. Her chest ached with every breath, and her mind wouldn't stop racing, cycling through memories and fears and what-ifs that made her stomach churn. She was staring at the ceiling when her phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Maria's blood went cold. The last time she had received a text from an unknown number, it had been Victoria threatening her daughter. She picked up the phone with trembling hands and read the message. I know what you did. I know what you're planning. This isn't over. Maria's heart stopped. That wasn't Victoria's number. Victoria was in custody, her phone confiscated. Who was sending this? She called the nurse's station immediately. Within minutes, a police officer was in her room. Someone is threatening me, Maria said, showing him the message. I don't know who. The officer examined the phone. We'll trace the number. It's probably just a crank, someone who saw the news and decided to cause trouble. Or it's someone working with Victoria, someone she hired before she was arrested. The officer's expression shifted. We'll look into it. In the meantime, I'm going to station a guard outside your door. No one gets in without authorization. After he left, Maria lay in the darkness, her heart pounding. She had thought it was over. She had thought Victoria's arrest meant safety, but now she wasn't sure. Victoria had money, connections, people who owed her favors. Even from a prison cell, she could reach out and destroy lives. Was Maria ever going to be free of her? At 6:45 a.m., the answer came. Detective Morrison burst into Maria's room, his face pale. We traced the number, he said. It belonged to a man named Robert Hayes. He was Victoria's financial advisor. He helped her move money, set up offshore accounts, cover her tracks. He was found dead this morning. Apparent suicide. Left a note confessing to everything, helping Victoria plan the murders, helping her steal Lucas's trust fund, all of it. Maria stared at him. Suicide? That's what it looks like, but we're investigating. The detective sat down heavily. The point is, whatever network Victoria had, it's falling apart. Hayes was the last person who knew her secrets. Without him, she has no one left to help her. You're sure? We've been through her phone records, her emails, her financial statements. Hayes was her only accomplice. Everyone else was just hired help who didn't know what she was really doing. Maria wanted to feel relieved, but something nagged at her. If Hayes was helping her, why would he kill himself? Why confess everything? Guilt, maybe, or fear of going to prison. The detective shrugged. We may never know for sure. Maria nodded, but the doubt remained. Something about this felt wrong. Too convenient. Too neat. But she pushed the thought aside. Lucas was safe. Victoria was in prison. Hayes was dead. It was over. It had to be over. At 12:00 p.m., Maria was released from the hospital. 2 weeks of recovery. 2 weeks of pain and therapy and slowly learning to breathe again. 2 weeks of Lucas visiting every day, bringing drawings and stories and the kind of pure, unconditional love that Maria had almost forgotten existed. Catherine was waiting with a wheelchair. Lucas bounced beside her, unable to contain his excitement. "You're coming home! You're coming home!" he chanted, grabbing Maria's hand. "Yes, baby, I'm coming home." Home. The word felt strange on her tongue. For 15 years, Maria hadn't really had a home. She had apartments, temporary rooms, places where she slept, but never truly belonged. But Catherine's apartment was different. Catherine's apartment had Lucas, and wherever Lucas was, that was home. The drive was quiet. Lucas sat in the back seat holding Maria's hand through the gap between the seats. He didn't say much, just held on like he was afraid she might disappear again. When they pulled into the parking garage, Maria felt something shift inside her. A loosening, a letting go. "We're here?" Catherine said softly. "Yes," Maria replied. "We're home." At 3:30 p.m., Maria saw her new room for the first time. Catherine had prepared it while Maria was in the hospital. Fresh paint, new curtains, a comfortable bed with soft sheets and too many pillows. "It's not much," Catherine said apologetically, "but I wanted you to have a space that was really yours." Maria walked slowly around the room, touching the curtains, the bedspread, the small vase of flowers on the nightstand. Her eyes filled with tears. "No one has ever done anything like this for me," she whispered. "You saved my nephew's life. This is the least I can do." "It's not about debt, Catherine. You don't owe me anything." "I know." Catherine stepped closer and took Maria's hands. "That's not why I did it. I did it because you're family now, because Lucas loves you, because I love you." She paused. "Is that okay?" Maria couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. Lucas appeared in the doorway. "Why are you crying? Are you sad?" "No, baby." Maria knelt down and opened her arms. "I'm happy. These are happy tears." Lucas ran to her and threw himself into her embrace. "I don't understand happy tears." "Someday you will." Maria kissed his cheek. "Someday you'll understand." At 7:15 p.m., they ate dinner together as a family. Catherine had cooked pasta, Lucas's favorite. They sat around the small dining table, passing dishes, laughing at Lucas's attempts to eat spaghetti without making a mess. It was normal, ordinary, the kind of evening that millions of families experienced every day without thinking twice. But for Maria, it was extraordinary. It was everything she had dreamed of during those dark nights in her tiny apartment, missing her children, wondering if she would ever belong somewhere again. "Maria," Lucas said, his face covered in tomato sauce. "Yes, baby. Are you going to stay forever?" Maria looked at Catherine. Catherine nodded, her eyes glistening. "Yes," Maria said. "I'm going to stay forever." Lucas grinned, showing all his teeth. "Good, because I love you." "I love you too, baby." "I love you 3. Maria laughed. "That's not how it works." "I know, but I wanted to say it anyway." And in that moment, sitting at that table, surrounded by people who loved her, Maria felt something she hadn't felt in 15 years. Peace. At 11:00 p.m., Maria's phone rang. She was in bed, almost asleep, when the sound jerked her awake. She looked at the caller ID. Unknown number. Her heart started pounding. "Not again. Please, not again." She answered anyway. "Hello." "Mrs. Santos." A woman's voice, unfamiliar. "My name is Elena Vasquez. I'm a reporter for the Boston Globe. I'm writing a story about Victoria Whitmore, and I was hoping to interview you." Maria let out a breath. "Just a reporter. Just someone wanting to talk." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Please, Mrs. Santos, your story is incredible. The things you did, the risks you took. People need to hear about it." "I didn't do it for attention. I did it because a child was suffering." "I know, and that's exactly why your story matters." The reporter's voice softened. "There are children all over this country being abused and neglected. Most of them never get saved because no one is willing to speak up. If you tell your story, maybe you'll inspire others to do the same." Maria was quiet for a long moment. She thought about Lucas. About all the Lucases out there trapped in dark rooms waiting for someone to find them. "When would you want to do this interview?" "Whenever you're ready, I can come to you." Maria made a decision. "Next week. Call me Monday and we'll arrange a time." "Thank you, Mrs. Santos. Thank you so much." After she hung up, Maria lay in the darkness thinking about what she had just agreed to. She had never wanted to be famous. She had spent 15 years trying to be invisible, staying under the radar, avoiding attention. But maybe it was time to step out of the shadow. Maybe her story could help other children. Maybe her voice could make a difference. Maybe this was why everything had happened. Not just to save Lucas, but to show the world that ordinary people could do extraordinary things. At 8:30 a.m. the next morning, everything changed again. Maria was making breakfast when Catherine burst into the kitchen, her face white as a sheet. "Turn on the news, now." Maria grabbed the remote and switched on the TV. "Breaking news this morning," the anchor said. Victoria Whitmore, the Newport socialite accused of multiple murders and child abuse, was found unresponsive in her cell early this morning. She was pronounced dead at 6:47 a.m. Authorities are investigating the cause of death. Maria's knees gave out. She sank into a chair, staring at the screen. Victoria was dead. "How?" she whispered. "How is that possible?" "They're saying it might be suicide," Catherine said. "Or possibly something else. Another inmate. A guard. They don't know yet." Maria thought about Robert Hayes found dead just days ago, about the confession, about how convenient it all seemed. "Someone is cleaning up," she said quietly. "Someone is making sure there are no loose ends." "What do you mean, though?" Hayes knew Victoria's secrets. Victoria knew who else was involved, and now they're both dead. Maria looked at Catherine. "Someone with a lot of power is making sure this story dies with them." Catherine's face went pale. "You think there's someone else? Someone we don't know about?" "I think Victoria didn't do all of this alone. I think there's a network. People who help wealthy criminals hide their crimes." Maria stood up. "And I think we need to be very, very careful." At 10:15 a.m., Detective Morrison arrived at the apartment. His face was grim. He sat down across from Maria and Catherine and folded his hands on the table. "Victoria Whitmore was poisoned," he said. "Someone slipped something into her food. We're still waiting on toxicology to confirm what it was." Maria felt cold. "So it was murder." "Looks that way." "Do you have any suspects?" "We're investigating, but I'm going to be honest with you, Mrs. Santos. This case has gotten a lot bigger than we expected. Victoria had connections we didn't know about. People in high places who may have been helping her for years." "Who?" "We don't know yet, but we're following leads." The detective leaned forward. "In the meantime, I want you to be careful, very careful. Whoever killed Victoria knew she might talk. If they think you know something..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Maria understood perfectly. She was still in danger. Lucas was still in danger, and until whoever was behind this was caught, they might never be truly safe. At 2:00 p.m., Maria made a phone call. Margaret Chen, the prosecutor, answered on the first ring. "Mrs. Santos, I was just about to call you. I heard about Victoria. What does this mean for the case?" "Officially, the case is closed. The defendant is dead. There's no one left to prosecute." "And unofficially," Margaret was quiet for a moment, "unofficially, we're opening a new investigation into everyone Victoria worked with, everyone who helped her, everyone who might have ordered her killed." "You think she was working for someone?" "I think Victoria Whitmore was just one small part of a much larger operation, and I think whoever runs that operation decided she was a liability." Maria's blood ran cold. "So this isn't over?" "Not by a long shot." Margaret paused. "Mrs. Santos, I need to ask you something. During your time at the Whitmore estate, did you ever see anything strange? Anyone visiting who didn't seem to belong? Any phone calls or meetings that seemed suspicious?" Maria thought back. The luncheons, the charity galas, the endless parade of wealthy friends and business associates. "There was a man," she said slowly. "I only saw him once. He came to the house late at night, about 2 months after I started working there. Victoria met with him in her study. I didn't hear what they talked about, but when he left, Victoria looked scared. Really scared." "Can you describe him? Older, maybe 60, silver hair, expensive suit. He had an accent, European, I think, German or Austrian. Anything else?" "He drove a black Mercedes with diplomatic plates." Margaret was silent for a long moment. "Mrs. Santos, I think you may have just given us our first real lead. I'm going to send someone to take a formal statement, and I'm going to increase security around your apartment." "Do you think he's the one who had Victoria killed?" "I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out." At 6:30 p.m., Maria told Lucas a bedtime story. It wasn't a story from a book. It was a story she made up about a brave little boy who lived in a dark forest. A boy who was lost and alone until a kind woman found him, Hammon, and brought him into the light. "Is the boy me?" Lucas asked, his eyes wide. "What do you think?" Lucas considered this carefully. "I think yes, and the woman is you." "Maybe." Maria smiled and kissed his forehead. The important thing is that the boy was safe. He found a family who loved him, and he never had to be scared again. I like that story. Me too. Will you tell it again tomorrow? Every night, baby. Every night for as long as you want. Lucas closed his eyes, a smile on his face. Within minutes, he was asleep. Maria sat beside his bed for a long time, watching him breathe, thinking about everything they had been through, everything they had survived. The story wasn't over yet. There were still dangers out there, still mysteries to unravel, still enemies lurking in the shadows. But tonight, in this room with this child sleeping peacefully beside her, Maria felt something she had almost forgotten how to feel. Hope. Whatever came next, they would face it together, as a family, and nothing, not money, not power, not all the evil in the world, would ever tear them apart. 6 weeks had passed since Victoria's death. The investigation had stalled. The mysterious man with the silver hair and diplomatic plates remained a ghost. No name, no address, no trace. It was as if he had never existed. Maria tried to move on. She focused on Lucas, on his therapy sessions, on the slow process of rebuilding a shattered child into a whole person again, but every night when she closed her eyes, she saw that black Mercedes driving away from the Whitmore estate. Someone was still out there. Someone dangerous. Someone who had ordered Victoria's death and gotten away with it. At 7:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, everything changed. Maria was in the kitchen, making pancakes when Catherine's phone rang. She watched Catherine answer it, watched her face go pale, watched her grip the counter like she might fall. "What is it?" Maria asked. "What's wrong?" Catherine hung up and stared at her. "They found him." "Who?" "The man you described, the one with the diplomatic plates." Catherine's voice was shaking. "His name is Heinrich Voss. He's a German businessman with connections to organized crime across Europe. Interpol has been tracking him for years." Maria's heart started pounding. "Where is he?" "That's the thing. He's here, in Providence. The FBI picked him up last night trying to board a private plane." Why was he trying to run? Because someone talked. One of Victoria's old contacts made a deal with prosecutors, gave them everything, names, dates, bank accounts. The whole network is falling apart. Maria sank into a chair, her legs suddenly weak. It's really over. It's finally over. Almost. Catherine sat down across from her. "The FBI wants you to identify him, Maria. They need you to confirm he's the man you saw at the Whitmore estate." "When?" "Today, this afternoon." Maria looked toward Lucas's room where he was still sleeping peacefully. "What about Lucas?" "My mother will watch him. He'll be safe." Catherine reached across the table and took Maria's hand. "You don't have to do this. You've already done more than anyone could ask." Maria thought about it. She thought about the fear she had lived with for months, the sleepless nights, the constant looking over her shoulder, and she thought about all the other victims, all the other children who might be suffering right now because people like Heinrich Voss helped monsters like Victoria get away with their crimes. "I'll do it," she said. "I want to see his face when he realizes it's over." At 2:15 p.m., Maria walked into the FBI field office in Providence. Detective Morrison was waiting for her along with 2 federal agents in dark suits. They escorted her through security down a long hallway to a room with a one-way mirror. "He's on the other side," one of the agents said. "Take your time. Tell us if you recognize him." Maria stepped up to the glass and looked through. Her blood turned to ice. There he was, the man from her nightmares. Silver hair perfectly styled. Expensive suit slightly wrinkled now. Cold eyes that seemed to look right through the glass right at her, even though she knew he couldn't see her. "That's him?" Maria whispered. "That's the man I saw." "You're certain?" "I'll never forget his face." Maria's hands curled into fists. "He came to Victoria's house in the middle of the night. She was afraid of him. I could see it in her eyes." The agent nodded and made a note. "Thank you, Mrs. Santos. Your identification will be crucial to the case." "What's going to happen to him?" "He's facing charges in 7 countries. Murder, money laundering, human trafficking, child exploitation." The agent's voice was grim. "He's not getting out, ever." Maria should have felt relieved. She should have felt triumphant. But looking at Heinrich Voss through that glass, all she felt was cold. This man had helped Victoria. He had helped her kill Jonathan. He had helped her plan Lucas's death. And he had probably done the same thing dozens of times before helping wealthy criminals destroy innocent lives for profit. "Can I talk to him?" Maria asked suddenly. The agent frowned. "That's not standard procedure." "I don't care about procedure. I want him to see my face. I want him to know who helped bring him down." Detective Morrison stepped forward. I think we can arrange that. 5 minutes later, Maria was sitting across a metal table from Heinrich Voss. He looked different up close. Older. More tired. The arrogance was still there in his eyes, but it was cracked now, strained by the knowledge that his empire was crumbling. "Mrs. Santos," he said, his accent thick and cultured, "the famous maid who ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything. I saved a child." "You saved one child and destroyed a network that took decades to build." He leaned back in his chair. "Do you have any idea what you've done, the people I worked with, the money that flowed through my hands, the power I held?" "I don't care about your power. I care about Lucas." "Lucas!" Voss laughed, a cold, empty sound. "A worthless child who should have died months ago. Victoria was supposed to be careful. She was supposed to be patient, but she got greedy sloppy, and then you came along." Maria felt anger rising in her chest. "Lucas is not worthless. He's beautiful and brave and kind. He's everything you and Victoria could never be. He's a meal ticket. That's all he ever was. That's all he was to you. To me, he's my son." Voss's eyes narrowed. "Your son? You're not even American. You're an illegal immigrant who cleaned toilets for a living. What makes you think you have any right to that child?" Maria leaned forward, her voice steady and cold. "I have every right, because I was there when no one else was, because I fed him when he was starving, because I held him when he was scared, because I risked everything to save him." She paused. "What did you ever do, count your money while children suffered?" Voss stared at her for a long moment. Something shifted in his eyes. Not remorse. Men like him didn't feel remorse. But something else. Recognition, maybe. Acknowledgement that he had been beaten by someone he had dismissed as insignificant. "You think you've won," he said quietly, "but you haven't. There are others like me. Others who will keep doing what we do, helping people like Victoria making money from misery. You can't stop all of us." "Maybe not." Maria stood up. "But I stopped you, and that's enough for me." She walked out of the room without looking back. At 5:30 p.m., Maria returned to Catherine's apartment. Lucas was waiting at the door, bouncing with excitement. Maria, Grandma, let me have ice cream." Maria scooped him up and held him tight. "That's wonderful, baby." "Where did you go? I missed you." "I had to do something important, but I'm back now. I'm not going anywhere." Catherine was standing in the kitchen, her face anxious. "How did it go?" "I identified him, and then I talked to him." "You talked to him?" "I wanted him to know." Maria set Lucas down and watched him run off to play with his toys. "I wanted him to see my face, to understand that a nobody brought down his entire operation. And he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison." Maria sat down at the kitchen table. "It's over, Catherine. Really over this time. No more mysterious threats. No more looking over our shoulders. We're finally safe." Catherine sat down across from her, tears streaming down her face. "I can't believe it. After everything we've been through." "I know," Maria took her hand. "But we made it. All three of us. We survived." That night, Maria couldn't sleep. Not because she was afraid. For the first time in months, she wasn't afraid of anything. She couldn't sleep because she was thinking. About the past. About the future. About everything that had happened since she first heard Lucas crying through that locked door. She got out of bed and walked quietly to his room. He was sleeping peacefully, his stuffed elephant tucked under his arm, a small smile on his face. Maria sat in the chair beside his bed and watched him breathe. This boy had changed her life. He had given her a purpose beyond survival. He had taught her that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was doing what needed to be done despite the fear. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness, "more than you'll ever know." Lucas stirred. His eyes fluttered open. "Maria." "I'm here, baby. Go back to sleep." "Are you watching me?" "Yes." "Why?" Maria smiled. "Because you're the most precious thing in the world to me, and I want to make sure you're safe." Lucas reached out and touched her hand. "I'm safe. You keep me safe. Always. I promise." Lucas closed his eyes again. Within seconds, he was asleep. Maria stayed beside him until the sun came up. At 9:00 a.m. the next morning, Maria received a phone call that would change everything again. "Mrs. Santos, this is Elena Vasquez from the Boston Globe. We spoke a few weeks ago about an interview." "I remember." "I wanted to let you know that our story about you is running tomorrow, front page, and Mrs. Santos, the response has been overwhelming." What do you mean? I mean, people are calling it the story of the year. A housekeeper who risked everything to save a millionaire's child, David versus Goliath, the ultimate underdog story. Elena paused. You're about to become very famous, Mrs. Santos. Maria's stomach tightened. I didn't do this for fame. I know, that's what makes it such a good story. Elena's voice softened. Look, I know this is a lot, but I think you should be prepared. After tomorrow, your life is going to be very different. Different how? Interview requests, book deals, movie rights, everyone is going to want a piece of your story. Maria was silent for a long moment. She thought about her quiet life, her anonymity, the invisibility she had cultivated for 15 years. All of that was about to end. Thank you for warning me, she said finally. You're welcome, and Mrs. Santos, for what it's worth, I think you're a hero, a real one. The world needs more people like you. After she hung up, Maria sat staring at her phone. Famous. She was about to become famous. The idea terrified her, but as she thought about it more, a different feeling emerged. Maybe fame could be useful. Maybe her story could inspire others. Maybe if people heard what she had done, they would be more likely to speak up when they saw children suffering. Maybe her pain could become purpose. At 11:30 a.m., Margaret Chen called. Mrs. Santos, I wanted to give you an update. Heinrich Voss has decided to cooperate with prosecutors. He's giving us everything. Names, locations, bank accounts. We're going to be able to shut down his entire network. That's wonderful news. There's more? Margaret's voice was strange, careful. During his debriefing, Voss mentioned something about Lucas, about the trust fund. Maria's heart skipped. What about it? Apparently, Victoria was planning to move the money to offshore accounts before Lucas died, to make sure it would be impossible to trace. Voss helped her set up the transfers. Margaret paused. But the transfers never went through. Victoria was arrested before she could complete them. So the money is still there. All $40 million. It's being held in trust until Lucas turns 18. Margaret paused again. But there's something else. Voss gave us documents showing that Victoria had forged Jonathan Whitmore's will. The original will left everything to Lucas directly with no conditions. It also named a guardian for Lucas in case something happened to Jonathan. Maria's breath caught. Who? You're not going to believe this. At 2:00 p.m., Maria and Catherine sat in a lawyer's office. The lawyer was an older man with kind eyes and a gentle voice. His name was Robert Hartley, and he had been Jonathan Whitmore's personal attorney for over a decade. I should have come forward sooner, he said, his voice heavy with regret. But Victoria threatened me. She said if I told anyone about the real will, she would destroy my career. I was a coward. I'm sorry. What does the real will say? Catherine asked. Hartley opened a folder and pulled out a document. Jonathan Whitmore's original last will and testament dated 3 months before his death. It leaves his entire estate to Lucas to be held in trust until his 18th birthday. It names Catherine Whitmore as Lucas's legal guardian. Catherine let out a breath. That's what we already have. But there's more, Hartley turned to Maria. In the event that Catherine Whitmore is unable or unwilling to serve as guardian, Jonathan named a backup, someone he trusted to protect his son. Maria's heart was pounding. Who? Hartley looked at her with something like wonder in his eyes. You, Mrs. Santos? The room went silent. That's impossible, Maria whispered. I didn't even know Jonathan Whitmore. I started working at the estate after he died. Actually, you did know him, briefly. Hartley pulled out another document. 3 years ago, you catered an event at the Whitmore estate, a birthday party for Lucas. Jonathan was so impressed by your kindness to his son that he asked about you. He learned your story, your background, your children in Guatemala, your struggle to build a better life. Maria remembered now, a sunny afternoon, a little boy with blonde hair and blue eyes. She had played with him while his father watched smiling. He was moved by you, Hartley continued. He told me that if anything ever happened to him, he wanted someone like you to be part of Lucas's life, someone who understood sacrifice, someone who knew what it meant to love a child more than yourself. Tears were streaming down Maria's face. He didn't even know me. He knew enough. He saw something in you that day, something rare and beautiful. Hartley smiled sadly. Jonathan Whitmore was a good judge of character. It seems he was right about you. Catherine reached over and took Maria's hand. This is incredible. It's like fate. It's not fate, Maria said quietly. It's Jonathan. Even from beyond the grave, he's protecting his son. At 4:30 p.m., they told Lucas. He was sitting on the living room floor playing with his toy cars when Catherine and Maria sat down beside him. "Lucas, we need to talk to you about something important," Catherine said. Lucas looked up, his blue eyes curious. "Am I in trouble?" "No, baby, you're not in trouble." Maria smoothed his hair back from his forehead. "We want to tell you about your daddy." Lucas's face changed. He rarely talked about his father. The memories were too painful, too mixed up with everything that had happened after. "What about him?" "Your daddy loved you very much, more than anything in the world." Maria's voice was gentle, and before he went to heaven, he made sure that you would always be taken care of. He chose people to watch over you, to protect you, to love you. "Who?" "Aunt Kathy and me." "She's." Lucas looked from Catherine to Maria and back again. Yes, baby. Your daddy chose me to be part of your family. Isn't that amazing?" Lucas was quiet for a long moment. Then his face broke into the biggest smile Maria had ever seen. "Daddy knew you would come," he said. "He knew you would save me." Maria pulled him into her arms, tears streaming down her face. "Maybe he did, baby. Maybe he did." At 8:00 p.m., Maria called her daughter. "Mama," Sophia's voice was excited. "I heard the news. You're going to be famous." "How did you hear? The story is everywhere online. My friends are all sharing it. They can't believe my mother is a hero." Maria laughed through her tears. "I'm not a hero, mija. I just did what anyone would do." "No, Mama. You did what no one else would do. That's what makes you a hero." Sophia paused. "I'm so proud of you. Miguel is proud of you. Everyone in Guatemala is proud of you." "Thank you, baby." "Mama, there's something I need to tell you." Maria's heart skipped. "What is it?" "I've been saving money, working extra jobs after school, and I talked to Miguel. We want to come visit you. We want to meet Lucas. We want to be a family again." Maria couldn't speak. The tears were falling too fast. "Mama, are you there?" "I'm here," Maria managed. "I'm here? Yes, come. Come as soon as you can." "Really? Really, I want you to meet your brother." "Our brother." "Lucas, he's your brother now. We're all family." Sophia was crying now too. "I love you, Mama." "I love you too, mija, more than you'll ever know." At 10:15 p.m., Maria sat alone on the balcony. The city lights spread out before her, twinkling like earthbound stars. The air was cool and clean, carrying the faint scent of autumn. So much had happened. So much had changed. 6 months ago, she had been a scared, invisible woman cleaning houses for wealthy people who never even learned her name. Now she was about to become famous. Her children were coming to visit. She had a new son who loved her with all his heart. And she had finally found a home. The door opened behind her. Catherine stepped out and handed her a cup of tea. Couldn't sleep either. Too much to think about. Catherine sat down beside her. "I got a call from the prosecutor's office. Heinrich Voss's testimony has led to arrests in 6 countries. They're shutting down the entire network. Dozens of wealthy criminals are being exposed. Children are being rescued. Because of what we did. Because of what you did. I just helped. You were the one who found Lucas. You were the one who risked everything." Maria shook her head. "I couldn't have done it without you. Without your lawyers. Without your connections. We did this together." Catherine smiled. "I guess we make a pretty good team." "The best team." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping their tea, watching the city lights. "Maria?" Catherine said finally. "Yes. I'm glad you came into our lives. I'm glad Lucas found you. I'm glad you're part of our family." Maria reached over and took her hand. "Me too, more than I can say." At 6:00 a.m. the next morning, the story broke. Maria's face was on the front page of the Boston Globe. The headline read, "The maid who saved the millionaire's son won woman's courage in the face of evil." Within hours, it was everywhere. Television, radio, social media, the story went viral, shared millions of times by people all over the world. Maria's phone rang constantly. Interview requests from every major network. Book offers from half a dozen publishers. A Hollywood producer wanted to make a movie about her life. She ignored most of it. She had more important things to focus on. At 9:30 a.m., she took Lucas to his therapy appointment. Dr. Chen met them with a smile. "I saw the news. How are you handling all the attention?" "I'm trying not to think about it too much." "That's probably wise." "Doctor." Chen turned to Lucas. And how are you feeling today, Lucas? Lucas looked up at Maria, then back at the therapist. I feel happy. Maria is famous now. Everyone knows she saved me. Does that make you proud? Yes, because Maria is the best person in the whole world. Maria's heart swelled with love. After the session, Dr. Chen asked to speak with Maria privately. I have to tell you something, she said, her voice warm. In all my years working with traumatized children, I've never seen a recovery like Lucas's. He's made more progress in 3 months than most children make in 3 years. Is that unusual? It's extraordinary, and I think I know why. Dr. Chen smiled. It's because of you, your presence, your consistency, your unconditional love. You've given that boy something he never had before. Security, safety, the knowledge that someone will always be there for him. I just love him, Maria said simply. That's exactly it. Love is the most powerful medicine in the world, and you've given Lucas more of it than he ever dreamed possible. At 2:00 p.m., something unexpected happened. Maria was at the apartment with Lucas when the doorbell rang. She opened it to find 2 people standing in the hallway, a woman and a teenager, both with dark hair and familiar eyes. Maria's heart stopped. Mama? Sophia threw herself into Maria's arms, sobbing. Surprise, we couldn't wait. We got on the first plane we could find. But how? The visas. Catherine helped us. Sophia pulled back the tears streaming down her face. She called the embassy. She pulled strings. She made it happen. Maria looked past her daughter to see Miguel standing awkwardly behind her, her son, her baby boy now 14 years old and almost as tall as she was. Miguel? She whispered. He stepped forward slowly. Hi, Mom. Maria pulled him into her arms and held on like she would never let go. 3 years. 3 years since she had held her children. 3 years of video calls and text messages and the constant aching absence. I missed you, she sobbed. I missed you so much. We missed you too, Mom. Miguel's voice cracked. Every single day. A small voice came from behind Maria. Who are they? She turned to see Lucas standing in the doorway, his face uncertain. Maria wiped her eyes and knelt down to his level. Lucas, these are my children, Sophia and Miguel. They came all the way from Guatemala to meet you. Lucas studied them carefully. Are they my family now? Yes, baby. They're your brother and sister. Sophia knelt down beside Maria. Hi, Lucas. I've heard so much about you. You're even cuter than the pictures. Lucas's face broke into a shy smile. You're pretty. Sophia laughed. Thank you. I think we're going to be great friends. Miguel hung back, but Lucas walked right up to him and looked up at his face. You're tall, Lucas said. Yeah, I guess I am. Can you reach the high shelves? Maria can't reach the high shelves. Miguel grinned. I can definitely reach the high shelves. Good. Then you can get me cookies. Everyone laughed. The tension broke. And just like that, 2 families became one. At 7:30 p.m., they all sat down to dinner together. Catherine had ordered food from Lucas's favorite restaurant. The table was crowded. Noisy, chaotic. Sophia and Miguel were telling stories about Guatemala. Lucas was showing off his toys. Catherine was laughing at something Maria said. Maria looked around the table and felt something she had spent 15 years chasing. Belonging. This was her family. Not just the children she had given birth to, but the ones she had found along the way. Catherine, who had become the sister she never had. Lucas, who had become the son she never expected. They were all together now, all safe, all loved. Maria, Lucas tugged on her sleeve. Why are you crying? She hadn't realized she was crying. She wiped her eyes and smiled. Happy tears, baby, just happy tears. At 10:00 p.m., Maria tucked Lucas into bed. Sophia and Miguel were in the guest room. Catherine had gone to sleep early, exhausted from the chaos of the day. The apartment was quiet, peaceful. Maria, Lucas said as she pulled up his blankets. Yes, baby. Is this what a family feels like? Maria's heart ached with love. Yes, baby, this is exactly what a family feels like. I like it. Me too. Will it last forever? Maria bent down and kissed his forehead. Forever and ever, I promise. Lucas smiled and closed his eyes. Good, because I don't ever want it to end. It won't, baby. It won't ever end. She stayed beside him until he fell asleep and then walked quietly to the window and looked out at the city. 6 months ago, she had been nobody, a shadow in a world of light, a woman without a country, without a home, without hope. Now she had everything, a son who loved her unconditionally, children who had crossed an ocean to be with her, a sister in spirit who had become her best friend, a home that was really truly hers, and a future full of possibilities. She thought about everything she had been through, the fear, the pain, the moments when she thought she would never make it, the times when giving up seemed like the only option. But she hadn't given up. She had kept fighting, and in the end, love had won. At 11:45 p.m., Maria wrote a letter. It was to herself, to the woman she had been 15 years ago, standing at the border, terrified and alone, wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. "Dear Maria," she wrote, "I know you're scared. I know you don't know if you're doing the right thing. But I want you to know that everything is going to be okay. More than okay. Amazing things are waiting for you. People who will love you. Children who will need you. A purpose that will give your life meaning. The road will be hard. There will be times when you want to give up, but don't. Keep going. Keep fighting. Keep believing, because one day you're going to save a little boy's life, and that little boy is going to save yours. Trust the journey. Trust yourself. Trust love. It will carry you through. Love, Maria." She folded the letter and put it in her nightstand drawer. She would read it again someday. On the hard days. On the days when she forgot how far she had come. But tonight, she didn't need reminders. Tonight, she knew exactly who she was and what she was worth. At 12:00 a.m., Maria fell asleep. She dreamed of sunlight, of children laughing, of a future that stretched out before her, bright and beautiful and full of love. And when she woke the next morning, surrounded by her family, she knew that the dream had become reality. 1 year later, Maria Santos stood in a courtroom and became an American citizen. Lucas held her hand as she took the oath. Sophia and Miguel stood behind her, beaming with pride. Catherine wiped tears from her eyes. When the judge pronounced her a citizen of the United States, the room erupted in applause. "Congratulations, Mrs. Santos," the judge said. "Welcome home." Home. The word meant something different now than it had a year ago. It didn't mean a place. It meant people. It meant love. It meant belonging. Maria looked at her family, her beautiful, impossible, perfect family, and smiled. "Thank you," she said. "It's good to be home." Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. They had been following Maria's story for months, documenting her journey from undocumented immigrant to national hero. "Mrs. Santos, how does it feel to finally be a citizen?" Maria thought about the question. How did it feel? It felt like the end of a 15-year journey. It felt like the beginning of something new. It felt like everything she had sacrificed and suffered had been worth it. "It feels like a miracle," she said, "but not just for me, for my whole family." She looked down at Lucas, who was grinning up at her with those beautiful blue eyes. "This little boy taught me something," Maria continued. "He taught me that love is stronger than fear, that courage isn't the absence of terror, it's doing what's right even when you're terrified, and that no matter where you come from, no matter what language you speak, no matter what papers you have or don't have, you can make a difference, you can save a life, you can change the world." She squeezed Lucas's hand. "I used to think I was nobody, just a maid, just an immigrant, just another invisible person doing invisible work." Maria's voice grew stronger. "But I was wrong. Every single one of us has the power to be someone's hero. We just have to be brave enough to try." The reporters scribbled notes. Cameras flashed. But Maria wasn't looking at them anymore. She was looking at her family. At Sophia and Miguel, who had given up everything to be with her. At Catherine, who had become the sister she never had. At Lucas, who had given her life meaning beyond anything she had ever imagined. They were all together now, all safe, all loved, and that was all that mattered. As they walked away from the courthouse, Lucas tugged on Maria's hand. "Maria? Yes, baby. I love you." Maria knelt down and pulled him into her arms. "I love you too, baby, more than all the stars in the sky. More than all the fish in the ocean. More than all the fish in the ocean. More than all the grains of sand on all the beaches." Maria laughed. "More than all that and more." Lucas hugged her tight. "Good, because I love you more than everything in the whole universe." Maria held him close, tears streaming down her face. She had crossed an ocean for her children. She had risked everything to save a stranger's son. She had faced down monsters and survived bullets and stared evil in the eye. And in the end, all of it had led her here. To this moment. To this family. To this love. Maria Santos had spent 15 years searching for home, and she had finally found it. Not in a country or a house or a piece of paper. in the arms of the people who loved her, in the heart of a little boy she had saved, in the unbreakable bonds of family. Some people spend their whole lives looking for miracles. Maria Santos had become one, and that was the greatest gift of all.